The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, once again, guys, we are live. It's good to be live again. It's good to be seen on YouTube again. It's good to interact with you guys. It's good to, just have another day to do what we love and talk about this sport, which never stops. There's always something going on in boxing. There's always something to talk about. And anybody who tells you that there's never anything to not talk about, they just don't follow the sport enough, because there's always something to talk about in boxing. That's why I have so much fun covering the sport. But, shout out to everybody today. It's going to be a fun show. It's going to be a really fun topic. We're going to talk more about the 154-pound division. This time, we're gonna leave Jaron Ennis alone. We're gonna tone down any talk about Philly versus Angola, because I feel like we made our point with Philly versus Angola, the new rivalry in boxing. What we're gonna talk about though today on this show is gonna be, Sebastian Fundora, Keith Thurman stepping up to the plate to fight Sebastian Fundora at 36 years old. Keith Thurman hasn't done a whole lot of fighting over the years. I'm skeptical if he'll actually go ahead and still fight Fundora, because he does have a history of getting injured and pulling out of the fights and those kind of things. But he signed for it, right? So he's going to go ahead and fight Sebastian Fundora. It was reported yesterday by Lance Puigmeyer and a number of other reporters and news outlets. So yeah, they're saying in October, Las Vegas, I believe MGM Grand. So it's going to be a big occasion. So I'm really excited about it, and I think there's a lot to break down, because Thurman was offered a fight with Vergil Ortiz. He turned it down. You got some people saying he ducked Vergil Ortiz, which, I don't know how you could duck someone when you're fighting Sebastian Fundora. There's no such thing as an easy time in the ring with Sebastian Fundora. That's a hard night to work for anybody at 154. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Thurman, Boots, Xander, Bakhram. You fight Sebastian Fundora, you're in a real fight. So I can't see how it's a duck. We'll talk about all that and more. I'm going to be here for at least a solid 2 hours. So we're going to have a lot of fun in those 2 hours. So make sure you guys smash that like button if you're watching live. If you're watching the playback, smash that like button as well. And that would be really appreciated. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And of course, if you really, really, really fuck with True School Sports, go ahead and super chat, but we here. Let me go ahead and take some time to acknowledge the fine folks that have already went ahead and made their presence felt with their comments. So we'll start my main man, David Esther. He says, Thurman is the one playing with house money. Not a lot is expected of him due to his absence. Whereas if one of the contenders with upside try to fight him, it's an opportunistic move on their part. It is, because Thurman has a name, and he's only ever lost to one guy, and that guy is an all-time great, and that guy is going to the it's in the Hall of Fame already, in Manny Pacquiao. So they beat Thurman, and they become the second guy to beat Keith Thurman. Then it obviously does a lot for them and their career, and of course, it enhances their what the perception is of them moving forward. So it's a good move. It's good matchmaking. We're here early for my guy. What's up, Joel? Good to see you, champ. Puerto Rico, Boricua, pa que tú lo sepa. What's up, champ? You good? Good to see you. My man Justin says, I never thought I'd see the day where Thurman is taking harder fights than flip-flop Boots Ennis. Yeah. Well, I don't want to talk. I'm honestly tired of talking about Boots, but people get things messed up and misconstrued about Keith Thurman, because they get his inactivity confused with him being some sort of punk. And I'll tell you one thing, Keith Thurman is many things in that boxing ring. And he's been many things in his boxing career. He ain't never been a punk, ever. He told y'all a long time ago, he was a guy that told y'all he has an O and he's not afraid to let it go. If you can beat him, then beat him, right? And look at the guys he's fought. Even when he was on a layoff and he had a tune-up fight, his tune-up fight was against a guy who became world champion, Mario Barrios. So that come on, guys, this is the same guy that Floyd Mayweather was Mayweather's mandatory for years, and Floyd didn't even talk about his name and try to fight him. So it's like, give the guy some respect. He's went ahead and stepped up to the plate more than enough times in his career to have some damn respect. I know some people will say, well, he ducked Errol Spence, which, by the way, you can feel that way if you want to. Just make sure that you say that, Terrence Crawford ducked to Jaron Ennis, because it's damn near the same shit. It's a more established guy who had bigger fights on the horizon, who pursued those bigger fights on the horizon, and the young upcoming guy who had a lot of talent, was still building his name in the sport. So it's very similar to that. They would have fought if Keith Thurman would have beat Manny Pacquiao. The plan was from PBC to do the Thurman versus Spence, but sometimes in boxing, some fights aren't meant to be, and it is what it is. But other than the whole Spence fiasco, there really isn't anything you can say about Keith Thurman. He's always stepped up to the plate. So yeah. It's debatable. I like Vergil, but right now, look at Sebastian Fundora, what he's doing, man. He's 6'7". He's actually starting to box a little tall. He's very strong, punches hard with both hands, doesn't get tired. I mean, it's a hard not to work for anybody. So, you know what I'm saying? David said 154 is a hype job division. It is. And right now, there's not really one clear-cut guy, but it's fun to talk about. Mother Prince says, salute BT, Thurman, Fedora, solid fight. I definitely think it'd be entertaining from the lead up to the end. Did you hear about the Spence Ortiz rumors? Do you think there's any credence to them? I saw people tweeting about Thurman and or not Thurman, Vergil Ortiz and Errol Spence. I didn't really read into the rumors. What are the rumors exactly? Are the rumors that they're gonna fight? Because if there is, I mean, I don't really believe. It's hard for me to believe because Errol Spence, I don't think really wants to box anymore. And the dude is I'm telling y'all, I know for a fact, I know better than most. That Errol Spence is well off. Like that dude owns a very nice house in a very, very secluded part of Texas, which I won't name, but I know what city he lives in Texas. Don't ask how I know, but I know. And it's a very nice area where he lives, and he lives a peaceful life. He don't need to box no more. So I don't think that I don't lend any credence to it. But I will say this: if there is any truth to it, and Errol Spence does fight Vergil Ortiz, I feel like that would be a massive event in Texas. Errol Spence is a box office ticket seller in Texas, of course, and Vergil Ortiz being from Texas as well. He's going to bring his own fan base. So you're talking about two of Dallas's very own coming together to make a great fight. Why not? Rebel Life Boxing, what's good, champion? He says, salute True School. Yeah, if that fight happens, Thurman is making these young fighters look bad for real. And you can't hate on Keith. To me, I know that you can criticize any fighter in history. We could all nitpick and find something wrong with anybody, anything, but that's a guy that I feel like has done his part to help push the sport of boxing forward outside the ring and inside the ring. Never forget, Keith Thurman was the guy that got 4 million views on CBS back in the day, not these other guys, I wasn't a fan back then, but looking at fights, I feel like Keith Thurman would have beat Spence too. Too bad that he ducked. Well, you could say that he ducked, which I'm okay with, but it is worth noting, and I know Spence took a bigger fight with Crawford, right? So I'm not gonna knock Spence for fighting Crawford, but there was plans in place for Keith Thurman and Errol Spence were negotiating. They were PBC wanted to do Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence at 154 a couple years ago before the Crawford fight got made. If you guys remember, Keith Thurman actually signed his part of the deal. That was very publicized back then. So, I don't look at Keith Thurman as a dog. I've always thought that he was one of the guys that's willing to fight the best, but that's just me. BT, what's good, my guy? Just living, man. Just staying out of trouble. Staying focused, getting things done with the channel and in the boxing world with other things that I got going on. So just keeping things nice and simple. Eating somewhat healthy and just staying out of the way. How about you, champ? You good? But yeah, we got enough people here, so I want to get into my talking points because I got quite a lot of them. Make sure you guys smash that like button. It's True School After Dark, the untouchable True School Sports Empire. We're here, guys. So look, we'll go to screen share, right, and we'll start with I guess the main idea of this live because I feel like people like to throw around the word duck these days. Because I'm not gonna lie, as boxing fans, it's fun. It's real fun to say, this guy is ducking that guy, and it is fun. I can't even lie. When you feel that a guy is ducking, it is fun to say that a guy is ducking. But I don't think this is a duck because one thing about Keith Fitzgerald Thurman, and that yes, his middle name is Fitzgerald, as you guys can see right there. He's always been one to step up to the plate and fight the best guys. Now, has he fought? Have we seen a whole lot of them in the ring over the last 6 years? No. we could say he lost his love for the game. Maybe he did. Maybe it was the injuries, because he did have some injuries. He's had a lot of injuries over the years. But, when we have seen Keith Thurman, I would say, apart from, it's crazy that his last, one, two, three, four, his last 5 fights, he's had 5 fights in the last 8 years. So that right there will tell you how little we've seen him in the ring. But in his last 5 fights, if we're going off of his last 5 fights, he's fought Danny Garcia when Danny Garcia was undefeated. He fought Manny Pacquiao, and he fought Barrios, who became champion. So three of his 5 fights have been against, guys, top fighters. And then he had two tune-ups with Jose Lopez, and then now Brock Jarvis. So now he's stepping up to fight Fundora. So how can you say this guy is a duck? Vergil Ortiz, right? And I like Vergil Ortiz. I want to get it on record now, because people want to say, people like to always get in their feelings about their fighters and say, oh, you're hating. And then sometimes people want to say stupid shit like, oh, you hate Mexican fighters or Mexican-American fighters, whatever the case may be. But let me get it on record again, because I made videos about this. I've said before that I think so highly of Vergil Ortiz. I think he could be the guy in the future to revive the middleweight division. I love Vergil Ortiz. I think he's got one of the best jabs in the business. And a lot of people say that Jaron Ennis would wash Vergil Ortiz. I think that's crazy. I think Vergil Ortiz would give Boots a whole lot of problems, especially because of he's got himself having one of the best jabs in the business. But one thing about it is this: Vergil is good, but he's got some questionable things about himself too. And I don't know how you could say that Keith Thurman is ducking Vergil Ortiz when he's fighting this giraffe, this praying mantis, this 6'7", just freak show of a 154 pounder. He's fighting him at 36 years old. Guys, Keith Thurman has made money in boxing. He don't even need to be boxing no more. And he don't really need to be fighting a guy like Sebastian Fundora anymore. So he's choosing to fight Sebastian Fundora, who I would argue, and I can make a great case, that he might be the #1 guy at 154 right now. So if you're fighting a guy who, from a stylistic standpoint, in my opinion, I think Fundora is the hardest guy to prepare for, because you can't simulate what he does in the ring in sparring. There's not 6'7", 154 pounders that you can just fly in readily available for sparring. So when you fight Fundora, fighting a guy who's 6'7", with long arms and throwing all these punches and stuff, it's always an obstacle to overcome, because there's not many guys like him. He's an anomaly. He's an enigma of a fighter at 154. So anybody, forget Thurman. If Boots would have fought this guy, if anybody you can name, Xander Zayas, Boachuk, anybody who steps up to the plate to fight this guy right here is worthy of our respect, worthy of our time, and definitely has credibility. So that's why you give respect to guys like Brian Mendoza, Tim Tszyu, because these guys stepped up to the plate and fought this guy. More in Tim Tszyu's case, multiple times. Who cares if they won like Mendoza or lost like Tszyu? Fighting this guy is not an easy night's worth of work. So yeah, I don't see how it could be a duck. Vergil Ortiz right now, I would say, he had a very good start to his career. He was knocking everyone out. He was doing his thing. And then, I some people don't like hearing it, but like, let's just be honest. Let's be really honest, right, guys? Look, so I want to highlight Vergil. I want to include Madrimov. We'll start from Boachuk and then Kabaluskis. So this 5-fight stretch between Kabaluskis and Boachuk, guys, let's be real here. And I know Vergil had health problems, so I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to make light of it. Yes, he had rhabdomyosis. He couldn't fight. His career was in jeopardy. His life was in jeopardy. His health was in jeopardy. I get all that. It's taken into account. But if we're just going on paper, from Boachuk all the way to Kabaluskis, that's 5 fights. In that 5-fight span, guys, I'm going to tell you guys this right now. Vergil Ortiz was pretty much on vacation. Like, he was pretty much on vacation for like 3 years. Let's just be honest, because Kabaluskis was a good puncher, right? Good puncher, guy fought Crawford, gave Crawford a good fight. Strong, sturdy welterweight. Then he fought Michael McKinson, which in my opinion, McKinson's a good fighter, and he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. But at the time, the majority of the boxing world was saying that Michael McKinson was a cherry pick. I wasn't saying that because I watched British boxing. I know Michael McKinson is. Michael McKinson actually wound up being, at that point in time, the guy who had taken Vergil Ortiz the longest in distance in a fight. So I thought it was a good win. But at the time, that was looked at to be a cherry pick, because Michael McKinson had 3 knockouts in 20-something fights. pillow-fisted. Good fighter, crafty, southpaw, physically strong, but pillow-fisted. Then he fought Frederick Lawson, who was super faded, had a brain aneurysm going into the fight. That fight wasn't anything to talk about. Then he fought Delorme, who Jaron Ennis already beat years earlier and hasn't really been anything close to a competent, good fighter since 2018, when he fought Jesse Vargas. So from in my opinion, it's a very arguable case to make that from Kavaluskas all the way to Boachuk last August, Vergil Ortiz was pretty much on vacation from fighting top level guys. That's just the truth. Then he fought Boachuk, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you, I thought he lost. He got put on his ass 2 times. Was very fortunate to get the decision. And I feel like that's a fight he got to run back. And then, he beat Madrimov, who I knew he was going to beat because Madrimov, while he did give Crawford a good fight and he was champion, you guys know I don't really class Madrimov as high as the majority of boxing. I feel like he's a very he's a limited fighter offensively. He's a difficult opponent because of his feints, and he's got good footwork and he can punch a little bit. But his skill set is so overblown out of proportion. It's ridiculous. I think Madrimov is criminally one of the most overrated fighters in boxing, and I will die on that hill. That's a hill I'm prepared to die on, honestly. Even though he may have given Crawford a good fight, Crawford's not a proven 54-pounder, right? The first 54-pounder he fought, he lost pretty clearly, So while Vergil is good, let's not act like Keith Thurman is ducking this guy that's just been beating all these top level guys and all these kind of things. He has a lot to prove in his own right, and I give Keith Thurman the utmost respect because, again, this is not an easy guy to fight or beat or prepare for, any of that stuff. So how can you sit there and just have all that hatred in your hearts? Straight up, how could you have so much hatred in your guys' hearts? With Keith Thurman being 36 years old, it's very possible that this could be his last fight. It could in fact be the last time for one time. And all the evidence in the world suggests that Keith Thurman is going to go ahead here and fight this young, strong, praying mantis, who, by the way, Fundora, credit to him, he's going to go to Harvard and become an engineer. Apparently he got accepted into Harvard's engineering program. So this guy is a renaissance man, so to speak. So he's more than just a boxer. Some people do got it all. He's 6'7". He can beat people's asses, and now he's going to be an engineer. I mean, some people got it all, but this could be the last time for him, and it could be a very ugly end to what's been, for the most part, in his career. For being honest, if we're talking about Keith Thurman's career from start to finish right now, it's been pretty much it's been a great career, because even in his only defeat, he performed very, very well, and I think he had a great case to maybe have won that Pacquiao fight. So it's arguable. You can argue that Keith Thurman should be an undefeated fighter, but as great as his career has been, as from the unified titles to the great fights with Porter and Danny Garcia and the knockouts early in his career, it could end very, very bad. He could wind up looking like his fellow Floridian Erickson Lubin when this is all done. He might get his, if he's not careful, he might wind up looking like Erickson Lubin. Y'all remember when Erickson Lubin fought Keith Thurman or fought Fundora? Remember how puffed up his face looked and the kind of beating Fundora gave him, even though he got a knockdown and it was a competitive fight. Do y'all remember what Erickson Lubin's face looked like at the end of that fight? That's always a possibility when you fight Sebastian Fundora. So when you I've seen a lot of people in boxing, I've already tweeted him, so I'm not gonna say anything to you guys that I haven't already said to this guy. But where is it? I had it earlier. Hold on, let me find it. Like Rick Glazer, right? Shout out to Rick Glazer. He's a friend of the program. I know a lot of people hate Rick Glazer, and that's your prerogative. Me and Rick have a good relationship, and we get along. And I'm pretty sure I was like the first person, or one of the first, but I believe the first person to interview Rick Glazer, because nobody was interviewing Rick Glazer like in 2018. So I was. So he has a long history on this channel, and we have to get Rick Glazer back on the show soon. But this is what he tweeted, and I thought Rick Glazer was way out of pocket for saying this. He said, and I quote, "Keith Thurman has no heart left for boxing, as he has now turned down Vergil Ortiz. He's just attempting to look for a soft spot to collect his last boxing paycheck. He's not a real fighter anymore. Just a guy that wants to cash in on his name 10 years ago. And that was then, and this is now. Thurman hasn't been in a meaningful fight since losing to Manny Pacquiao in 2019 and has only fought 2 times in 6 years. Thurman will be 37 in November. Keith Thurman is the undeniable poster boy for what's wrong with boxing in America in this era, and no one can disagree with that. Well, I will disagree with that because, again, he's had a lot of injuries. Keith Thurman's had a lot of injuries, and the inactivity has been terrible. I'm not a fan of that, but this is a guy that has stepped up to the plate more than his fair share of times in his career, and I can think of like 15 to 20 worse examples of American of fighters screwing the sport over in America than Keith Thurman. I like Rick, but let's be honest here. You know, Rick does work with Golden Boy Promotions. You know, when I was in Vegas last year to cover Floyd Schofield and Renee Telis-Garon, Oscar De La Hoya was at the press conference and he was shouting out Rick Glazer. So like he's got a great relationship with De La Hoya, with Eric Gomez, and the whole staff there down at Golden Boy. So he's just, you know, he's just sticking to the script of you know, Golden Boy. Golden Boy supplies him a lot of his business. So I get it. He's protecting his bottom line and saying what he feels is the truth. And, you know, I think it's out of pocket. And, you know, Keith Thurman has stepped up to the plate many, many times. And my thing is this, right? My thing is this. Even if you think Keith Thurman was those things, it doesn't matter because now he's stepping up to the plate to fight Sebastian Fundora. So even if he was those things, if he was the poster boy for everything wrong with American boxing, well, guess what? You can always redeem yourself. You can right your wrongs. You can repent of your proverbial sins. You can be those things, but you can step to the plate and fight someone like a Sebastian Fundora. And now you should talk about him in a different light because now he's fighting someone that, you know, is not no punk and is not no easy night's work for anybody. So yeah, man, people getting out of pocket talking about Keith Thurman, and I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of it. Keith Thurman's a real warrior. He's a true warrior of the sport, and I'm not trying to hear it from anybody. Let me see. Let me go ahead and read some comments because I know we got like 20 something comments I didn't even read. So shout out to everybody here who's commented. Thank you guys for tuning in and rocking with your boy BT on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. It's True School After Dark. Yes, sir. MMA Box says, yeah, I like this fight. Man, Sebastian versus Thurman, I've been noticing everyone who hates on him wasn't watching him back on his rise. He was amazing coming up and still is. That's what I'm saying. I feel like a lot of people probably didn't even know who Keith Thurman was or start watching boxing until Crawford Spence. And then they just, you know, they think that they just look at him as a guy that they think Doug Spence, but they didn't see him when he was knocking out and when he was fighting like Carlos Quintana and he fought Jesus Soto Caras and Bundu back in the day. Like they didn't see the KOs for life Keith Thurman, you know, the burn money Keith Thurman. Because if you experience that Keith Thurman, it's impossible for you to talk about him crazy at all. It's impossible. Thurman will lose by devastating TKO. Probably. I mean, that's what I'll say. That's what I'll say. That's what conventional wisdom says. He's 36 years old, and Fundora's getting better. One thing about Fundora is he's starting to box a little bit more off that long, tall, rangy frame of his. So the more he does that, the more dangerous he's going to be. How can we forget? He looks like Jason without a hockey mask. Well, some people got a short memory. Eric Schluman got the brakes beaten off of him by Fundora. And that was a great fight. I'll never forget that fight. Y'all in the pocket. Y'all said Keith needs hair transplant money. He might. We all have our needs. We all have our wants. We all have our needs. Rick hates anything with PBC and black fighters, in my opinion. I won't say he hates anything with black fighters, but I would definitely say that, you know, he's said his fair share about PBC. So some of it I agree with, some of it not, but you know, that's his opinion. I respect Sebastian, the Harvard Law School. He's an exciting fighter who puts on wars all the time. Yeah, man, you can't hate on him, man. I dislike Sebastian Fundora sometimes only because my boy Hyro, who you guys see in the chat, if you go ahead and you watch all these lives, you know, he's always talking about Fundora this, Fundora that. So he annoys you, Fundora. But outside of that, there's no reason to really hate Sebastian Fundora at all. He don't really talk trash to nobody. He goes about his business. He always gives us really good, entertaining fights. So, you know, I respect. And you can't forget how Brian Mendoza knocked off Fundora. No, I can't. You I love Brian Mendoza. Brian Mendoza is he's a friend of the program. I got a lot of love for Brian Mendoza. So I was very happy for Brian when he knocked him out. And I remember like the week after that, I was in Vegas, and I actually co-hosted. I co-hosted an episode with Sean Porter on the Porterway podcast, and they happened to interview Brian because he had just knocked out Fundora. So that was a pretty cool moment. So yeah, no, Brian knocking out Fundora was crazy, but again, whether he wins or loses, Fundora is in a really entertaining fight. So how could you really hate the guy or dislike him? Your Excellency says top five weight bullies in boxing. Fundora 1, Espinosa 2, Devin Haney 3, Dave Benavidez 4, and Jerron Ennis 5. Now, look, guys, I fully understand the whole concept of weight bully. I've talked about weight bullying in boxing, but if you can make the weight, you can make the weight, man. That's how I feel. But yeah, those guys are all huge for their weight class, especially Fundora and Espinosa. Those guys are. I remember when I was in Vegas covering Cardenas versus Inoue. There's a video. If you guys go look it up, there's a video, a short. There's a YouTube short of Inoue and Espinosa sitting near each other, and it was insane. It's insane. So, yeah. All right, a couple more comments, and then I'm gonna get into my third talking point. But we got Sebastian. He says, "What are your thoughts on the WBC making your fight mandatory to fight for the belt?" That's a great question. On one hand, I understand it because he was screwed over because Chihuahua Rodriguez tested positive for steroids and beat the brakes off of him. So they're doing the right thing, which the WBC doesn't normally do the right thing. But on the other hand, I'm a bit frustrated because I really believe Ken Shiro deserves a rematch. I went back and I watched Ken Shiro versus Ricardo Sandoval. I thought Ken Shiro beat him clearly. He fought better in that fight than he did against Carlos Canizales, who many people thought he got a good decision against. And I feel like the fight was close enough, whether you thought it was a win for Ken Shiro or a loss for Ken Shiro or a win for Ricardo Sandoval or a loss for Ricardo Sandoval. I thought the fight was close enough that it warranted a rematch. So I really want to see the rematch more than I want to see your fight, but I understand it. So I'll just leave it at that. What are your thoughts on pay-per-view being over? It's not over. Listen, every history in boxing repeats itself. Every about 5 to 6 years, we get somebody with a bunch of money that says the pay-per-view is over. Pay-per-view will never be over because at some point, what's going to wind up happening? Listen, Turkey Outlaw Sheik is saying pay-per-view is over, correct? How could you say pay-per-view is over when Turkey has had pay-per-view fights before? And if I'm not mistaken, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Crawford versus Canelo pay-per-view? Oh no, it's not. It's on Netflix, so it's not pay-per-view. But my thing is, what's going to wind up happening is there's going to be Turkey's going to lose enough money to where he gets frustrated with it, and he's going to put fights on pay-per-view to recoup for the losses he made. At some point in time, Turkey's going to act like a promoter because he's going to go ahead and be tired of losing money. He's already tired of losing money. Why do you think he's bringing in Dana White and they're trying to amend the Ali Act and put in payment restrictions and cap fighter pay and these kind of things? It's because Turkey doesn't want to lose money forever, So at some point, I think we'll get pay-per-views again, but it's not over. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Keith Thurman to me is probably the best personality in boxing. Point blank, period. I think whenever he decides to retire, he's going to be the best commentator in the whole sport. What do I think of Boots versus Spence or Boots versus Charlo? I don't think about those fights. Errol Spence is retired and Jamel Charlo is basically semi-retired. So I don't think about those fights, if I'm being honest. But they'd be cool if they happen, but they're not going to happen. What are my thoughts on Oscar Collazo defending his belt against Jason Vezan? I'm not going to sit here and lie to you like I know who Jason Vezan is, but I'm happy to see Oscar Collazo stay active and continue to fight and build his name and build his legacy and build himself closer towards being a pound-for-pound fighter. That's what I'll say on that. And okay, last comment before I get into my third talking point, because my third talking point is something I really want to camp out on with Vergil Ortiz. But my man Sebastian says, it sucks how we might not see Anthony Olascuaga versus Ricardo Sandoval in LA. BT, these promoters don't see the vision. They don't. And the unfortunate thing, the unfortunate reason as to why that fight probably would not be in LA is because, look, Anthony Olascuaga is controlled and promoted by Mr. Honda of Tekken Promotions, who has been a very popular subject of discussion here on True School Sports, and will remain a popular subject of discussion here on True School Sports till the end of time. And then Sandoval is with Golden Boy, but I don't think Golden Boy wants to really put up the money to host Sandoval in LA, which they should. I feel like, you can't really put it on Golden Boy and Olascuaga. You got to put it on or you can't put it on Olascuaga and Mr. Honda and Tekken Promotions. You got to put it on De La Hoya. If they want that fight in Southern California, I think it's incumbent upon Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy to put up the money so that these guys get paid and the fight can happen in Southern California. Because, man, it'd be a great fight. You're talking about, LA versus Rialto. That's a Southern California unification fight at flyweight. I mean, and it's two really good fighters with two amazing styles. Olascuaga being the hard, aggressive counterpuncher he is, with Ricardo Sandoval being the crafty boxer that he is. I think it's a great fight. But that's how I feel. But anyway, make sure you guys smash that like button. We're gonna get into our next talking point. It's your boy BT, the untouchable True School Sports Empire. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, super chat, all that great stuff. We here in full effect. And look, man, I want to talk about Vergil Ortiz, because really and truthfully, man, I like Vergil Ortiz. I've said it many times. I feel like he's got the best jab in the business. But in fairness, now look, I hope there's some Jaron Ennis fans here, and if there's not, then I would encourage anybody to go ahead and clip this, put it on Twitter, put it on Instagram, put it on whatever you want to do. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep that same energy, because Vergil Ortiz got his 2 tune-up fights at 54, which, okay, we know why he got them. He had his health condition. That's why he got the 2 tune-ups. I acknowledge that. But Vergil Ortiz, I feel like recently has been living off of reputation. Now, he did get a good win against Madrimov, but as I told you guys, I don't grade Madrimov as this great fighter like everybody else does. He won his belt against Magomed Kurbanov in Uzbekistan. Okay, so for me, Madrimov was never this killer. Crawford made Madrimov look better than what he really was. And when Vergil fought Madrimov, you saw that he beat Madrimov better than Crawford did, right? So I feel like that fight's whatever to me. That he beat Madrimov and it did nothing for his career. Boachuk, I thought he lost that fight, right? And then before that, he really didn't fight like he hasn't really been in a whole lot of big fights, a whole lot of fights where you could say he really proved that he was one of the top guys out there. And he's the WBC interim champion, but guess what? He's out of luck because Keith Thurman's fighting Fundora. So is he going to sit there on the interim title, or is Vergil Ortiz going to go and look for some smoke? Now, look, there's 3 fights, and you guys see them right there listed in the header. There's 3 realistic big fight options, I feel, for Vergil Ortiz in the next 6 to 12 months, and they're listed on the screen. Now, look, I know he can't fight Bakhram Murtazaliev right away because Bakhram is supposed to fight Eric Slubin. I understand that. But I believe that if Xander Zaya or Vergil Ortiz wants to fight Bakhram Murtazaliev, he can fight him. He can fight him in the middle of next year or late next year. That fight will be possible, and it's a fight that him and his team should feel confident taking, because Robert Garcia, who trains Vergil, trained Bakhram. When Bakhram first got to the States, Robert Garcia trained him. The videos are on LA Setback's channel. Shout out and tip of the cap to the OG, LA Setback. The videos are there. So if there's any trainer in the 154 division that knows Bakhram, as a fighter, his mental makeup, his preparation, his strengths, his weaknesses, it's Robert Garcia. So they should have all the confidence in the world to go press for that fight and take the fight and get that fight at some point in time. That's an option at some point. I did a whole live about it, but you guys know listen, Vergil was offered to Xander Zayas, and Xander wasn't the one who said no. It was Vergil who said no. And Vergil fought Madrimov. He beat Madrimov. He did nothing for his career, and Xander went on to become world champion. So he's right now he's behind Xander, because Xander got a belt he don't. Even if you think Vergil's a better fighter, in the grand scheme of like positioning and having leverage and these kind of things of a division, Xander is ahead of Vergil Ortiz, right? And then, of course, the third fight would be the Sergey Boachuk rematch, which I think is a very warranted rematch. I thought he lost that fight. I thought you got dropped 2 times. So if you get dropped 2 times, that's like four rounds. That's 2 10-8 rounds. That's 4 rounds. So you mean to tell me you found what the rest of the fight for Vergil? I don't think so. I thought Boachuk won enough rounds to at minimum get a draw. All you got to do is win 2 more rounds in that fight and he gets a draw. So you mean to tell me you can't find 2 more rounds with Boachuk in that fight? Like, nah. I thought at the worst it could have been a draw. They saved Vergil Ortiz from having an L on his record. So he has a lot to prove. Vergil Ortiz has a whole lot to prove. And I think, for all the heat that Jaron Ennis is getting, and he's getting a lot of it, and rightfully so. Let's put some of that same heat on Vergil Ortiz because Vergil Ortiz has competed at 140, didn't fight for a world title there. He fought at 147, didn't fight for a world title there. And he's been at 54, and while he may have beaten a former champion, he has still not fought for a world title. And mind you, let's go to screen check for a second. Mind you, it's not like Vergil Ortiz isn't in position because, I know the ranking, he's not going to be ranked anywhere else. Like, he's not going to be ranked in the top 15 of the other sanctioning bodies. But as you guys can see right here, he's the interim champion. Now, he's got him and his management team, they got a big-time decision to make. Do they want to sit on that ranking or sit on there with that belt and just wait for the winner of that fight and then fight? Or do they want to be proactive and say, you know what? Let me go see if I can get Xander at around this timetable or Bakhram around this timetable. I'm very intrigued. I think Vergil Ortiz and what he will do going forward as far as big fights is very intriguing because he's fought in 3 weight classes and hasn't fought for a world title yet. And I feel like if there's anybody in this weight class, and I like him, so I'm not being biased here. I'm a Vergil Ortiz fan. I paid money to watch him fight, and that's the biggest compliment I can give anybody because I can get box tickets for free, but I paid money to watch Vergil Ortiz fight before. That being said, Vergil Ortiz, as much as anybody, has more to prove than anybody. As much as anybody, like he's living out of his reputation as much as anybody. And I think that he needs to go and be involved in a real world title fight. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I know some people may love that, they may hate it, but that's the God's honest truth. Yeah. So what do you guys think? What say you guys? I feel like he needs to step up because we don't want Vergil Ortiz to be an eye test champion. If Jaron Ennis is an eye test champion, then I think you got to also call Vergil Ortiz an eye test champion because he hasn't won a world title. He's fought in 3 weight classes. And in his biggest fight, I thought and many others thought he lost. It was a very, disputed fight. So, Vergil Ortiz got to step. In the coming months of his career, he's getting to that point where he has to go ahead and step up to the plate and show these people that he is exactly who he says he is. BT, please spare us. Vergil don't duck the smoke. He is the smoke. Nah. I'm not trying to. I like Vergil, so I'm not trying to put him down. But nah, bro. You fought Madrimov over Xander, and I'm sorry. I know it sounds crazy to a lot of you guys, but I've been consistent about it. Go back and watch all my old videos. You should have fought Vergil. You should have fought Xander. Vergil versus Boachuk 2 needs to happen. Boachuk whooped him. That's what I'm saying. I thought Boachuk went in the head and did what he needed to do, and they took it from him because Boachuk is not a name. He don't speak a whole lot of English. There's not as much money in Boachuk winning that fight as it was for Vergil. And mind you, Vergil Ortiz, he's one of Golden Boy's prize fighters, top fighters. He's one of these guys. They don't have Golden Boy doesn't have a lot of fighters. They're top level guys compared to Matchroom or PBC or Top Rank. It's paper thin in terms of depth. So they really can't afford their top guys losing. So they had to go ahead and do what they had to do. Olas Kuaga versus Sandoval would be LA versus the Inland Empire. And exactly. And that's why it would be exciting. When was the last time we had a big time fight between LA and the Inland Empire? That's what I'm saying. I like Vergil. And I think Vergil Ortiz is such a great fighter, a great talent. I think when he does inevitably one day become a middleweight, I think he's great enough to become the driving factor towards making the middleweight division great again, making it a hot division again. But like this comment says right here from MMA Boxing Addicts, he's living off of his resume, you know. And his resume, in my opinion, is not that great. Like it's not that great. It's got some good names. He has some good wins. I won't say his resume is like it's not as bad as Jerron Ennis, but like it ain't much better than Jerron. Like I don't think his resume is just blowing everybody out the park like that. Because even the guys you named that like a Boychuk, he lost that fight and he got a gift. Zayas hasn't fought nobody. That's not true. That is definitely not true. His last fight, he just fought the guy that fought. He just fought the guy that beat the guy that Golden Boy signed to fight Vergil, because Golden Boy Promotions signed Charles Conwell to eventually use him as an opponent for Vergil Ortiz. I guarantee you at some point they will still use Charles Conwell as an opponent for Vergil Ortiz. In fact, it would not shock me at all if Vergil Ortiz's next fight is against Charles Conwell at all. So you can't really say that Jorge Perez is a nobody because he beat the guy that Golden Boy signed to match up with Vergil Ortiz. I would have never thought Xander will become a champion before Vergil. Golden Boy has gotten up some good names on his resume, but no belt by now is crazy given his talent. Yeah. I agree with you and I disagree with you. Like I'm surprised because Vergil should have been champion already. And, you know, his health problems did play a big factor in why he hasn't been champion already. So I will acknowledge that. But on the other hand, I'm not surprised because I know how good Xander Zayas' management is. Peter Khan is the best in the business. You're talking about Peter Khan, the same guy that made George Kambosos a multi-millionaire, right? That's the guy that ran George Kambosos' career and turned him into a multi-millionaire. So it's not shocking to me. But yeah, Vergil should have been champion. Facts are Vergil is doing the heavy lifting on 154, and you want him to lift more, and he will oblige you. I mean, shit. If you wanted to oblige me, I know in the grand scheme of things, I'm not important. I'm just a guy on YouTube that just talks about boxing, and he's Vergil Ortiz, right? So I'm not gonna be delusional here. But if he wanted to oblige me, right, specifically, he wouldn't have fought Madrimov because I don't put no stock in the Madrimov. And guess what? Neither did the boxing game. The boxing game itself didn't put no stock in the Madrimov because he beat Madrimov and nothing came from the damn fight. He beat him and nothing changed. And you can't argue that. It's inarguable. It's inarguable. He beat Madrimov and nothing changed. Murtazaliev is on the verge of one of those weight drain performances from going to 160. Zayas is also going to move up soon. Yeah, so all in all, probably Vergil fights for a vacant belt, and that'll be what it'll be. But don't sit here and tell me that Keith Thurman ducked Vergil Ortiz when Vergil Ortiz is not right now. He hasn't even fought at that level of Fundora. Jorge Perez would put hands on the inside on Fundora's style, make fights. Obviously, Fundora would slap Jorge too, but Jorge would do good. Listen, Jorge Perez, people need to give him his respect. Like, that's a guy that took some losses early in his career, and then he fought himself into contention. He fought himself to get the title shot. He went to the UK. He fought Rourke Knapp as the underdog, beat Rourke Knapp. Then he fought Charles Conwell, who was the boogeyman of the division, and then beat Charles Conwell. And then he lost to Xander Zayas because Xander Zayas is very, very good. You know, there's no shame in that. You can't say Vergil has more to prove than Zayas and maintain credibility in the boxing community. Politics are the only reason why Vergil doesn't have a belt, and you know this. What politics? What politics, bro? Listen, there are no politics, bro. Vergil Ortiz has been signed with Golden Boy Promotions since forever ago. Like when he was, I remember when he fought Mauricio Herrera back in like 2019 or 2018, whatever year it was. He was signing Golden Boy back then. Golden Boy has been bankrolling Vergil Ortiz's career for years, pumping millions and millions and millions of dollars into his career. So he's had one of the biggest promoters in boxing guiding his career along the way. Now, we don't know why he got rhabdomyosis. Blair Cobbs allegedly said he was on steroids. I'm not going to say that, but that's Blair Cobbs allegedly said. I personally believe that he overtrains because I know his dad works him like a dog, right? And he probably got it from that. Whatever the case may be, his health was a bigger contributing factor. Don't give me this about politics, this and politics that, bro. Vergil Ortiz has one of the most influential people behind boxing behind him. The guy is not a victim of politics. Let's not make him out like he's one of these African fighters or one of these fighters that become mandatory and gotta wait. He doesn't have that. That's not his plight. That's not his position on the chessboard of boxing. Nah, bro. I can't agree with that. Not at all. BT, please research Lima. This could end like Perez versus Conwell. I watched him fight. I watched some of his fights yesterday before I went live. He's heavy-handed. Yo, if Boots loses to Lima, he's gonna get the biggest exposed ever on this channel. I'm gonna yell it louder than any time I've ever said that on this channel. Lima has done the same thing as Perez. His only loss is on a few days' notice. Aaron McKenna, very close fight, very entertaining. McKenna killed Leon Smith and killed the Eubank trilogy. Okay, well, look, I hear you. I'm not listening. My gripe is not with Usima Lima. God bless him. Shout out to Angola. May he. And I don't want to sit here and talk about Boots versus Lima because I've been talking about Boots versus Lima too much, and I'm tired of even hearing the name Boots. I've said what I need to say on that fight, but my gripe isn't with him. My gripe is with Boots and how he's moving. Yeah, Vergil could have fought Xander, but chose not to. That's not politics. That's money hungry. Exactly. He could have fought Xander in a real fight against another fellow young, undefeated fighter, but he chose to fight the tap dancer, Madrimov. 2 reasons why Ortiz hasn't been champion yet: Spence versus Crawford, and number 2 was Samson Lukowicz. I would concur with that. I would concur with that. Shout out to my boy Alex. Good to see you, champ. Let me see. Do I got any more talking points? Because we're almost an hour in. Yeah, pretty much, guys. Look, the last thing I'll say as far as my last talking point on this whole thing at 154 is that Fundora right now is arguably the number 1 guy in the division. I know you can't really say there's any clear-cut guy, but he did at one point in time have 2 of the 4 belts. He was at one point in time the unified champion. He had 2 of the belts in the division. So that right there gives him standing. You know, he did beat Tim Tszyu twice. And yeah, I mean, what do you want from the guy? I mean, I think he's got a lot to prove. He does have one against Eric Slubin, who's one of the top contenders. He beat Sergio Garcia when Sergio Garcia was undefeated and was upsetting guys. And even if you go back to like the earlier parts of Fundora's career, because a lot of people don't even know Fundora's career like that. Early in his career, in like his 4th fight or his 5th fight, he fought Vic Tony. Shout out to Vic Tony. Vic Tony is a good fighter. Vic Tony wound up fighting Troy Isley at middleweight, right, at a higher weight class than this, and gave Troy Isley a good fight. A lot of people thought that Vic Tony might have beat Troy Isley, but yeah, Fundora fought Vic Tony in like his 5th pro fight, and Vic Tony was one of the only guys taking the distance. And Vic Tony is a really slick, sharp counter puncher. That was a good win in my opinion. You know, if you go up a little higher in his career, he knocked out Nathaniel Gallimore, who was a solid, you know, gatekeeper in the division. Sergio Garcia, Jorge Cota. You know, and then again, the Lubin fight to me gives him so much credibility because you got to remember when he fought Lubin, when Fundora fought Lubin hadn't lost for years. Lubin, you know, he got exposed bad by Jamel Charlo in 2017. Lubin goes on like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, goes on a 6-fight winning streak. Hadn't lost for like 5 years at the time they fought. And Fundora rearranged his face, and Lubin really hasn't been the same ever since that fight. So I feel like his resume has a lot of substance, and he's been the unified champion. So for right now, even though he's not my favorite 54 pounder, I like Vergil more than him. I like watching Vergil fight more. I like Boots more than Fundora. I like Xander more than Fundora. There's a lot of guys at 154 that I'm a bigger fan of than Fundora, but I'm not a hater. And you know, right, because of what he's accomplished and who he's fought and how he's beat them, you know, I would say he's the number 1 guy in the division if you got to pick one. You know, yeah, okay, but guess what happened? He got up the canvas and he turned him into a jack-o'-lantern. He made him look like a whole pumpkin. You know, the Saudis listened to you guys, and made the Times Square card absolutely garbage. You don't know shit about boxing. That's why you hate on Saudi. I didn't, all them. So since you brought it up, because I really don't want to talk about Saudi or Turkey. But since you brought it up, they had Teofimo Lopez Barbosa, Rolly versus Ryan, and Devin Haney versus Jose Ramirez. Yo, I never once in the entire history of this channel ever asked for Jose Ramirez versus Devin Haney. Never. Rolly versus Ryan, I'll say that one because everybody asked for that fight at some point. Most people asked for that fight at some point in time, so I will say that one. And then Tio versus Barbosa was a good little fight, but like it wasn't a fight that I needed to see. Like it was cool, Barbosa had some good wins. So I don't know. I don't know why you're saying you're blaming me for that card. Turkey hasn't made, in Turkey's whole existence as a promoter, he's maybe made about 2, possibly 3 fights I ever actually wanted to see. Oh, okay, all right. Thank you, Afro Jam. Thank you for clearing that up, champ. Because I had to stand my ground there. But I'll tell you this, though, I'm excited for that Brian Norman Jr. Devin Haney. I'll tell you credit for that one. That's a fight I wanted to see, and it got made. So I'll give him credit for that one. But yeah. Anyway. That's my last talking point. All I wanted to say was that I respect Fundora, and I think if you got to pick a number 1 guy right now in this wide open 54-pound division, because he's been unified champion at some point, and the guys he's beaten throughout the duration of his career, you got to slightly say him. Now that could change fight by fight if Xander goes and fights a Vergil and beats him, then it could be him. If Vergil fights a Xander and beats him, then it's definitely him. So the division's that tight right now. But right now, I'll say just because of the past, and him being the unified champion, I'll give respect to Fundora. But yeah, I pretty much done ran through all my talking points. So we got like we're 52 minutes in. We got like an hour and 9 minutes left. So I'm gonna be here for an hour and 9 minutes more. Listen, you guys get your questions and anything you want. It could be, listen, this is True School After Dark. So it could be boxing related. It could be non-boxing related. You put it in that chat, I'm going to ask it. But make sure you guys go ahead and smash that like button so this live can get pushed out to more boxing fans that aren't subscribed to True School Sports. YouTube tries to suppress my channel and keep the real off the algorithm. So let's fight the algorithm together and smash that like button. But let me see. We got I just want the truth. He says, what do you think about Khalil Cole versus Jesse Hart? Interesting. Is that fight finalized? Because I've been hearing things through the grapevine about other opponents for Khalil Cole. If that fight does happen, I think I would hope that it happens, on the undercard somewhere in the Northeast, because you're talking about Philadelphia versus New Jersey. That's a good little rivalry right there. And it's a good fight. Jesse Hart's a former world title challenger. He's been in the ring with some names. He's older now. He's at a more advanced age, a more advanced stage of his career. So this is going to be it for him if they fight. And Khalil Cole, he's coming off of that great rematch victory over Manuel Gallegos in Mexico, where he literally bloodied this man up with a jab. So I think it'll be a really good fight. Jesse Hart. I think Khalil Cole got the better jab in that fight. Khalil Cole pushing back with the jab. Hart is good, but Jesse Hart sometimes gets a little too tall, and you can counter him. So I will lean towards Cole in that fight. Oh, is it? That makes sense. If that's the case, then that makes sense because, yeah. There's nowhere else that fight could be where that fight would make that much sense. So yeah, I'm happy if that fight's on the boots card. What you're saying, then shit, I'll probably do a whole video on that fight real soon, because that's a fight we're talking about. Jesse Hart and Khalil Cole. It's been a while since I made a video about Jesse Hart, so why not? One last question: what and who do you think about Manny Pacquiao versus Javante Arroyo next? I suspected that Pacquiao versus Tank could be a fight that PBC wanted to do. So it's not surprising. I really don't care for any of those fights. I don't. I'll watch them. I'll make my videos, but I'm not gonna lie to you and say I care about those fights. I think if they fight, I don't know, man. Manny Pacquiao should be washed up by now. But he showed against Barrios that he still got something. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe Manny Pacquiao just exposes all these guys and shows that they aren't what we think they are. Who knows? Boots is Boo Boo 2.0. You remember how that turned out? He's similar. You know what? I wanna stop saying that because there are similarities, and I would say Andre is probably the closest similarity you can give to as far as careers, but it's not the same thing. It really isn't. Like Andre was literally going to guys' press conferences, crashing the press conferences, doing everything he could to make these fights happen, right? Even was signed to the same promoter as Canelo, couldn't get the fight. Billy Joe Saunders test positive for nasal spray to get out their fight. They never revisited it again. So I feel like he was really unlucky towards the latter parts of his career. So I don't think it's the same. And I actually believe that guys ducked Demetrius Andrade. With Boots, it's different. It's a little different because he's been afforded the opportunity to build himself as a star a lot more in Philadelphia than Andrade did in Rhode Island. Everyone want to fight Boots because Boots is a name. Everyone want to fight the guy, and every time he just keeps turning down fight after fight after fight after fight after fight. And mind you, this is with Eddie Hearn fully backing him, so it's like it's a little bit different. But I hear you. Nobody is talking about RG Cortez and Andrew Maloney was supposed to fight this weekend to become mandatory for Waldo Garcia Perez. Yeah, good fight. Would have been cool. Well, Waldo Garcia Perez is a guy that just doesn't get talked about enough in general. I don't even think I made a video about Waldo Garcia Perez. I know that Kenshiro Taraji was trying to fight Waldo Garcia Perez if he would have beat Ricardo Sandoval. That was the route he was going to go. He was going to try to go fight him. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the good fights this month, like that one in Tank Roach rematch, just aren't happening this month. So like this month's very thin. The fight that I'm most excited about in boxing this month is next weekend. It's John Paul Rivera versus Daniel Bailey, you know, and that's really because Daniel Bailey is my friend. Like we're friends, and he's from South Florida, and he's moving down to featherweight. And if he beats John Paul Rivera, now he becomes, you know, his career goes to one other level. So I'm excited for that fight because I want Daniel Bailey to win. But it's a paper thin month for boxing. I am Mexico. Shout out to you, champ. Says hi, BT. Just watched the video about Japanese boxer's death. I am gonna be honest. I thought Jitazaki might not make it when he fought Norman. I would listen when I was there in the arena because you guys think it was crazy on TV. Imagine seeing that shit in person. Oh my god! It's when Brian Norman hit Jitazaki in the arena. That shit sounded like a shotgun, and then you just heard a big plop. And Jim was just there motionless. So that's what I thought too. But you know, thankfully he made it. And hopefully they start to take some of my my wise counsel that I gave them, you know. Well, Waldo Garcia Perez is the worst champion in boxing. I gotta watch him fight more. I haven't really watched him fight a ton. But in my opinion, the worst champion in boxing is Mario Barrios by far. Do you think Ubaldo is worse than Do you think Ubaldo is worse than Mario Barrios? Yeah, and see, that's why I think a guy like Rafael Espinoza won't be eager to unify against Angelo Leo or Nick Ball or any of these guys because Zanford Promotions likes to milk their fighters' world title reigns. That's just how they operate. That's always how they've operated. So, you know. And there he is. It took you almost an hour, Howard. You were late, champ. I was waiting for you. Good to see you. He says, "Man, this is such a PBC fight. People are gonna hate it, but they all gonna watch. That's a fact, Tyro. PBC is back." But yeah, I don't know if you heard what I said earlier, Hyro. You might have to go back and watch the live tomorrow when you get some time. But everyone's trying to say Keith Thurman ducked Sebastian Fundora. Nah, man. Keith Thurman didn't duck Sebastian Fundora. Or Keith Thurman didn't duck Vergil Ortiz. They say he ducked Vergil Ortiz. Nah, man. How can you duck Vergil Ortiz when you fight Sebastian Fundora? No way. Waldo Garcia looks like Sugar Ray Robinson in the face, but not the skills. Yeah, I gotta watch him more. I'm not gonna lie to you and act like I've watched him fight a ton, or even I've watched clips. Nah, you're right. Barrios is the worst. Haha, Waldo Garcia it can be the second worst. Yeah, like to me, I'm like, damn. If he's worse than Mario Barrios, then damn, he gotta be bad. Because, you know, I'm not trying to listen, he became champion, good for him. But like Mario Barrios is not like, yo, how do you let 46-year-old Pacquiao, how do you let him fight you to a draw in a fight where you should have lost? Like, you got a gift draw. Like Mario Barrios, let's be real. We're getting on Boots' case because Boots tried to fight Abel Ramos at 54. Yo, Mario Barrios already fought Abel Ramos at 147. And guess what? He probably should have lost that fight. Mario Barrios, he might be the first fighter I've seen to get back-to-back gift draws. Not gift decision wins, not a robbery loss. I'm talking about back-to-back gift decision draws to retain the belt as champion. That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys want to see an example of a fighter being as good as his team. That's the perfect example I could give you. I can't give you no better example than that. They're supposed to go to a purse bid. Lubin and Murtazaliev are supposed to go to a purse bid. I haven't seen any official announcement, so I'm waiting to see the official announcement so I can go ahead and make my video about it. And that's a good fight. That's a good fight. If Lubin wins that fight, that changes the whole. In my opinion, at least for me, it'll change the whole perspective of his career. Let me see. He has a chin, rangy, unpredictable, good work rate. His story is unique. Barrios, yeah, I mean, it's cool. Shout out to my main man, Reverse Lee. Good to see Reverse Lee in the chat. It was good talking to you earlier today on Instagram, champ. He said, ESPN Plus deleted all the top-ranked fights. Now I'm paying $110 a year to watch La Liga. And the zone is smoking a premium if they think I'm paying $240 a year. Well, yes, that's what I'm saying, guys. I don't really like put any stock into the whole like no pay-per-view thing, because if they're not gonna charge pay-per-views on the app, they're gonna charge you guys more for the subscription. So you're gonna get hit somewhere, you know. Is Barrios worse than the new champ at 140? Yeah, I think he is. I think Rolly could beat Barrios if they fought. Straight up. I think Rolly's a better fighter than Barrios. Lubin won't be the same win or lose after he is done with that fight with Bakhram. Well, man, Lubin's been in some fights, man. The Fundora fight on its own is one of those kind of fights. And yeah, Bakhram, listen, you got to give Lubin some credit, because, you know, Bakhram is a guy that people aren't rushing to fight. BT, are you religious by chance? I'm curious. Wouldn't say I'm religious, but I would definitely say I have a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. I would if you ask me that question, I would say I'm a Christian. Yeah, I would say I'm a Christian, but I wouldn't call myself religious, because being religious is it's like you're doing things to get right with God, you know. And we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. So, you know, that's how I approach it. But yeah, I'm a Christian. To answer your question, I'm a Christian. Yeah. Yo, BT, BT rank who you think's careers are being treated least to most delayed, underwhelming? Tank Davis, Duran Ennis, Benavidez, and Johnny Bank. So who's being treated the worst, or who's the most underwhelming? I'll say Tank, because he's been doing soft matchmaking for such a long time in his career. I mean, he has fought some good fighters, but like, you know, we know the play of Tank. So I'll say Tank 1. I'll say Johnny Beck 2, because man, yo, he runs his mouth too much. Him and AS Clears be running their mouths too much about everybody ducking him at 160. And I personally know 2 middleweights that will fight Johnny Beck that are ranked if he passed that paperwork, but he's not passed the paperwork to those guys. But he's not telling you guys that. He's telling you guys that everyone's scared of him, so you guys buy into the narrative that these middleweights are scared of Johnny Beck. But the truth is, Johnny Beck is having a hard time making 160, and really and truthfully, if you go to 68, he's gonna get beat the fuck up, because he's not big enough for 168. Like, he's big, but like those guys there would have the firepower to match him. At 160, he's a bit stronger and bigger than these guys, so he can, you know, have his way a bit more. On a dream fight from Matias 147, I would like to see him fight Barrios for the belt. Ooh, see, that's a good fight. That's a fight I never considered. I'll I like that fight. I've always wanted to see. I want to see Shakur Stevenson fight Matias. That's a fight I want to see. This fight makes sense. Sebastian replaced Thurman, and they led him to becoming champion. That is true. That is true. So, a lot of people aren't viewing it like that, though, Hyro. But you're not lying. But Bobola had a close fight years ago, Pablo, and then moved down in weight. Yeah, and it paid off. He became champion, so good for him. Good management. Whoever advised him, good management. If Johnny Beck fought Hamza at middleweight, who do you got? At middleweight? Well, that's a good question. I would slightly say, I would still say Johnny Beck in that fight, because I think 68 might be Hamza's weight. Like he's stronger there. You know, Hamza will tell you himself he was weight drained towards the end of that middleweight title run. So if he would have fought Johnny Beck when he was supposed to fight Johnny Beck, he would have been sapped all of his energy. Mark my words. I feel like Thurman will pull out and Boachuk will replace. Ooh, yo, Alex, that actually sounds very realistic because, Boachuk. First of all, if there's one guy, listen, Boachuk will fight anybody. Boachuk's got a great resume. Boachuk is a real warrior, bro. Boachuk and Fundora used to spar each other. I had a chance to interview Sebastian Fundora before the first Tim Tszyu fight, and I remember when I had him on here. He talked about the sparring sessions, and he said, look, when you can think what you want about Fundora, but when you fight Fundora and you spar him in that ring, it's different. You know, so I could see that. Johnny Beck versus Yoenis Hernandez should happen. Why not? Why not? Yoenis Hernandez is one of the top contenders in the division. He's getting a lot of hype and fanfare. Let's see if he's really like that. Because for me, the jury's still out on him. I'm not quite as sold as other people are, but he's good. Cuban Spanish boxing channels are saying Shakur doesn't like to mention Andy Cruz. What do you think, BT? I don't know if it's that he doesn't like to mention him. Let me see something real quick. Let me check these rankings right quick. Let me check these rankings. Well, look, you're right, because Andy Cruz is the number one contender. If there's a fighter that he should be mentioning, it's Andy Cruz, because Andy Cruz beat up on his brother, Keyshawn Davis, a gajillion times, and that's a fight that he should be exploring. But he's not exploring that fight because he knows how difficult that fight will be for him. So look, at some point they'll fight him, and that's what it is. Boachuk is chinny, and people say he lost Michael Fox. Yeah, a lot of people do say that. Maybe he is chinny, but his chin was just fine when he fought Vergil Ortiz. BT, what do you think about Ricardo Malajica? He's the IBO champion 115, and he's ranked number 2 on Boxer. I think he's better than Kafu and has a better style. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. Again, there's so many fighters, and I try my best to cover as many fighters as possible. So I don't know who that is, but what I will do is I will write his name down, and I'll see what I can learn about him. What was this guy's name? Let me write it down so I don't forget it. Ricardo Malajica. I'm probably butchering the hell out of his name. Yeah, I don't know much about him, but sounds like I should know who he is. He's number 2, but I don't have an opinion. At least not right now. Who isn't better than Kafu? A lot of guys aren't better. Kafu's a good fighter, guys. Just because Kafu lost to Bam and, you know, had a weird ass game plan. Like his game plan was good and trash at the same time, because he willingly went to the corner of the ring. I know why he did it. He did it because he knew Bam had a foot speed advantage and didn't want to make Bam's life easier getting those angles on him. So he pretty much conceded, look, what he pretty much said was, look, I can't do nothing with you in the middle of the ring, so I'm going to be here right in the corner, so you can't just pivot around me so easily. But my thing is, if you're gonna use that game plan, and it's easier for me to say from the comfort of my chair in my house, my thing is, if you're gonna use that game plan, why why are there wasn't really a whole lot in terms of offense. Not much going on with his lead hand. Just a lack of offense. So in theory, the plan made sense, but in execution and for what the tool set, the skill set he had, it was never going to work. So I won't demean Kofu. He's a good fighter. He can come back, but it was a weird game plan. Kofu will win a world title again. Bam cleans up and moves up in weight. Yeah, that's what he's gonna do. And he's gonna win a vacant belt at 118. Mr. Hondo makes sure of that. Did I see that Taniguchi and Inoue for the OBPF title? No, I did not. It's a good fight. But yeah, it's your boy BT, True School After Dark. We're here. Shout out to all 40 of you guys rock with me. Make sure you guys go ahead and hit that like button so this live gets pushed out to as many people as possible. And do me a favor, guys. Let me know where you guys watch from, what city, what state, what continent. I want to see how international we are on the broadcast today. I know I got a big global audience. Let me see. Here we go. It took only every time I come on these lives, you guys always ask me about Angelo. So let's go. Let's get into it. Which is more likely to happen? Sam Goodman upsets Angelo Leo if they fought, or the Toronto Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup next season? Oh my God. See, you asking the right questions, because I'll tell you right now, ain't neither one of those things happening. You know what? I'll say the Maple Leafs. I'll say the Maple Leafs winning the Cup only because there's always that possibility that the Panthers could get injured because they've been playing so much hockey. But ain't no way Sam Goodman ain't doing shit with no Angelo Leo. He'll get folded. If Thurman wins, could we see a Manny versus Thurman rematch for the belt? That would be so PBC, and I love it. You know what's crazy? I haven't even thought about that. It's very possible. We might just see that. And honestly, I wouldn't even be mad at it, because that was a very close fight, and Keith Thurman would have a chance to avenge his loss. So then Keith Thurman could claim that he beat every man he's ever been in the ring with. So why not? I get it from the Thurman side of things. Ooh, Puerto Rico and Fort Myers. Fort Myers in the building. Shout out to Fort Myers. Virginia in the building. Rafferty versus Chamberlain. What are my thoughts on the fight? I don't really have any thoughts on Rafferty versus Chamberlain. Talking about Mark Chamberlain? I mean, if you're talking about Mark Chamberlain, if he wins, then I'm sure Turkey will get him on the cards again, because Mark Chamberlain was like Turkey's favorite fighter until Josh Padley cleaned him up. I feel bad for Murtazaliev. The entire 154 division is ducking him. I mean, that is true. I mean, nobody apart from Lubin, nobody's really trying to fight him. But what I will say is this about Murtazaliev, because there's a two-sided coin to when fighters are being ducked. Sometimes it's not that fighters are being ducked. Sometimes it's that the fighters who people think is getting ducked, their promoters don't really make the investment that they need to get these fights over the line. Like, so and I think that's a very possible scenario, because Bakhram is promoted by Main Events, and I know Main Events has been involved in boxing for a long time, but I question how much money they have in terms of like investment these days. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe Kathy Duval and them got old money, and they're intentionally lowballing people. Who knows? I'm not even sure if they're lowballing anybody in general, but I'm saying my mind is open to that possibility. Murtazaliev was trying to fight Ortiz. Ortiz's camp wouldn't come to terms with any agreement, and that's very alarming, because again, if there's any fighter in this division that should be fighting Bakhram Murtazaliev, it's definitely Vergil Ortiz. Bro, his trainer Robert Garcia coached when Bakhram first got to the States. Robert Garcia was his coach, so he knows Bakhram as a person. He knows his strengths. He knows his weaknesses. He knows everything about him. Or he should know enough about him at least to go ahead and take the damn fight. But they don't want to do it because they feel like the risk doesn't match the reward. And one thing about it is everybody says that Robert Garcia is a great trainer, and he is a great trainer. But in my opinion, I think he's a significantly better manager than he is a trainer, in my opinion. So if he feels like if he feels like from a managerial standpoint that it's not the right time to put Vergil in there with Bakhram, then I'm not gonna go against Robert Garcia's management's perspective, because he is one, like, quiet as kept. People don't talk about Robert Garcia, the manager, like that, but he is one of the best managers in boxing. Him being one of the best managers in boxing, in my opinion, is a big reason why he's one of the best trainers in boxing. Because he's very good at getting the majority of his fighters in favorable style matchups, and he has great relationships with Mr. Honda, Top Rank, and a whole host of other promoters. So that's right. Murtazaliev is managed by Eddie Clemens. Why the hell did he get him on Top Rank? He's managed by Clemens, but his promoter is Main Events. Isn't his promoter Main Events in Caddy Duo? I'm pretty sure it is. What are my thoughts on the Inoue and Canelo undercard? I mean, the Canelo card has Billy and Lester Martinez. I like that fight. I think that fight's a good fight. It's a great fight, actually. It's probably one of the best fights on the entire schedule left this year. Now, as far as Inoue, and I'll go to screen share for this one because I'll be honest, I don't really know a whole lot about the Inoue merger undercard, so maybe this is a great time to go ahead and put myself on game and, put myself in a position of power so I can really know what's going on and check the damn undercard. I'm sure they'll have some great fights on the undercard because we see. So I'll tell you right now. So you got So really, what I'll say about Inoue's undercard is I think it's pretty mid, actually. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a pretty mid undercard. I mean, I like that Taiga Imanaga is fighting. He's a good fighter, prospect. He's fighting for the Japanese title, so he's stepping up in terms of, becoming now a guy that could be ranked at the world level if he wins this fight. So good for Taiga Imanaga. I made a video about him one time. He's a good fighter. The fight I'm probably the most excited about, if you want to ask me, is this fight right here. I'll highlight it right here. I don't really care about Yoshiki Takei. I think he's super overrated. I actually think Yoshiki Takei is one of the most overrated fighters in Japan, but that's neither here nor there. This is the fight I'll highlight right here, the minimum weight fight right here between Yuni Takada and Ryusuke Matsumoto. I think that this is a great fight. Yuni Takada has 8 losses, but Yuni Takada is probably one of the most TV-friendly fighters there is in boxing. He could be a potential Oscar Collazo opponent because he's like the #1 WBA contender. And as far as Ryusuke Matsumoto, yeah, I've seen him fight before. He's a pretty good fighter. So I think this fight right here is going to be a fun fight. That's probably the fight for me on the undercard. I don't really care about Yoshiki Takei because I feel like, they're going to keep protecting him from Seiya Sutsumi because Mr. Honda knows that Seiya Sutsumi will beat the fucking brakes off of Yoshiki Takei if they ever fight. So I don't know. I got mixed feelings. Like I don't hate anybody and I don't hate Yoshiki Takei. I just don't like the fact that when I stayed in Yokohama when I was in Japan last time, so I kept seeing ads of him at the train all the time, and I'm just like, man, you guys doing too much for Takei. Takei is not like that. I digress. Otabek Komatov is See, now that's a guy right there. He's been ducked. Like that guy's been ducked. He's literally a top-ranked fighter, and I don't see nobody stepping up to the plate to fight Otabek Komatov. And the thing is, like, that's what I'm saying. Top Rank is so smart because they know if they match like a guy like Bruce Carrington, right? Because I feel like, look, if you're Top Rank, if you have any questions about Bruce Carrington and what kind of fighter you think he could be, the fight that you make to figure out what the hell it is you have with Bruce Carrington is Otabek Komatov. But at the same time, if Komatov beats the brakes off of him, you run the risk of losing a guy that you pumped a lot of money into. So they probably feel like Bruce Carrington can't beat Komatov, so that they don't even talk about that fight. But yeah, I agree. The fighter can if they really want. They don't, and the fans need to accept it. Lubin and Conwell called talking about Bakhram. Nah, this statement right here is not true. It's not true. Not every fighter situation is different. You can't say if the fighter really wants, they can go ahead and take the fight. No, they can't. Because if you got a manager bankrolling you millions upon millions of dollars, you can't just go do what you want to do, because if they feel that this is going to hinder their investment, they're not going to let their investment go in there. So no, it's not like that. Yoshiki Takei is the truth. He was a kickboxer. Listen, he's a good fighter. He's a champion. He's a great athlete. I mean, anybody who can achieve what he achieved in kickboxing and then come to boxing and become champion is a great athlete. I'm just saying, like, I get very pissed off with the way that Seiya Tsutsumi is treated amongst the bantamweights in Japan. You know, because really, him and Junto should have fought before Junto left. Quiet is kept. People may not want to hear this, but in my opinion, what Junto did leaving bantamweight to go to, I know he has the innerweight fight at 122, so he's going to get a pass for it. But that aside, Junto Nakatani to me didn't really solidify himself as the true number one guy at bantamweight. Now he looked like that, and he beat the brakes off Nishida, but I wanted to see him go undisputed, right? And so I feel like what he did and what Boots did not fighting Brian Noma Jr., it's the same shit. But the thing is, it's not going to be looked at the same way because he's moving up to fight Inoue. But actually, no, he's not moving up to fight Inoue right away. He's moving up to fight probably Ramon Cardenas or someone like that. Then he's going to fight Inoue. So I'm still mad with the ref stopping the Ford Komotov fight. I mean, look, me and Raymond Ford had a big back and forth. I have my opinions on it. I don't want to discredit his win. He fought a great fight. To be told, look, I like Ford, but Ford hasn't fought that great since the Komotov fight. So I'm getting to a point with Raymond Ford. Do I gotta start talking shit again? Do I gotta come out? Do I have to come out here and motivate Raymond Ford again? Because when I was coming here saying that Komotov was gonna do this and Komotov was gonna do that, and Raymond Ford was getting all pissy on social media and all mad about what I was saying about him, he fought the fight of his life. Like it took someone like me talking about Raymond Ford all the time to pull it out of him. So and he's had some good little performances. He's had some solid little fights, but he ain't fought nowhere close to that level since the damn Komotov fight. So I might have to come on video and start saying, you know what, Raymond Ford can't beat Eduardo Sugar Nunez. He can't beat a Mexican. I might need to start saying shit like that, so that he can actually fight to his best, because I guess he feeds off hate. They robbed Komotov versus Ford. Stop the fight when the man was still on the speed with 7 seconds left when Ford was down on the cards. Yeah, boxing happens. Komotov blew his knee out and didn't have the body language of a fighter that could continue. So he put the referee in a tough position. So if you put the referee in a tough position, it's always 50-50. Is Bam going to become undisputed at 118? There's still some Japanese guys that aren't washed up. Well, it depends on how Mr. Honda maneuvers the Japanese guys in and around him, because he's like, you know what, because I'll tell you, there's a couple guys at bantamweight, man. Like, man, I want to see Bam fight Seiya Tsutsumi. Since Bam Rodriguez is so bad and he's this and he's that, put him in there with Seiya Tsutsumi. If he beats him, I'll start talking differently. But I want to see Bam fight Tsutsumi. If Tsutsumi gets through Antonio Vargas, I hope, they do that fight. If you go straight into the fire, what are we going to do? Burn out Vergil? No, I have my plan. That's why Golden Boy has been successful for many years. If you go straight into the fire, who said that? Anybody in the right mind knows that 2 tough fights, he needs a welcome home type fight against a top 10 kind of fighter. Who are you talking about? Vergil? Oh, BT. This is Oscar on Bach versus Vergil. I don't like Murtazaliev. De La Hoya told Ring, Vergil just had 2 tough fights against Madrimov and Boachuk. If you go straight into the, oh my God, bro, he fought Madrimov. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to start getting. I'm gonna have to start crashing out. He fought Madrimov, bro. Guys, stop this Madrimov shit. Madrimov is not good. Madrimov, he's good. He won a world title, but I'm saying, like, he's not He's not like that. Like, you guys are doing too much. But Madrimov is not like that. I'm gonna quote my boy Hyro. Yo, Madrimov, and I don't even think he's as good as this guy. But like, Madrimov is the Sergei Derevyanchenko of the 54th division. And I don't even think he's as good as Sergei Derevyanchenko. But I'm saying, like, y'all need to stop that with this Madrimov stuff, bro. Madrimov was not a tough bro. Vergil beat Madrimov easy. Your boy Ken Shiro ain't getting a rematch. Of course, listen. Of course, he's not getting a rematch, because do you know what would happen if you got a rematch? What will happen in a rematch is what happens to every fighter when they fight Ken Shiro in a rematch. Ricardo Sandoval will get done up in like about 6 rounds because Ken Shiro makes adjustments. BT, why did Arturo Cardenas ducked Crowder? Because Robert Garcia didn't feel it was a good fight for him. That's why. I don't know. That's the only reason I can give you. Shushu can't see the straight left coming from Southpaw. Komatov will be a bad matchup for him. And Top Rank knows that. That's why it's not a fight that's been made. But I feel like if you want to know how good Carrington really is, that's the fight you make. Keep in mind, Thurman is notorious for pulling out of fights. That's true, but like, he's pulled out of some fights. That's true, but he's also been in a lot of big fights. Like, we got guys now getting all this hype in boxing that, despite Keith Thurman's inactivity, still haven't stepped up to the plate as much as Keith Thurman has. It's ridiculous. One is all Japanese fighters are juiced to the hills and stack their gloves. Did you see the 2 fighters that died from the same card in Japan? That is not normal. I just put out a 24-minute video on it a couple hours ago. Go check it out. But I don't think that. I don't think. Is there a possibility that there is some foul play in Japan? Of course, and I think there is. In fact, I don't think I know, because I've seen some shit when I was in the dressing room for Angelo versus Kameda, right? So I know there's foul play in Japan, as there's foul play anywhere. But I think the reason why dudes die in Japan has more so to do with the sparring culture and the gym culture on a day-to-day basis. Listen, I've been in some gyms where I've seen. I'm not gonna name the gyms with the fighters, but I've seen fighters spar their teammates and knock them the fuck out in Japan. And I've only ever seen that in Japan. Normally when you spar your teammates, you do hard sparring, but you're not trying to knock your teammates out. I've seen dudes get put out bad in Japan. So I think that the trainers not throwing in the towels when they need to. And then the Japanese Boxing Commission just being completely incompetent, in that situation. It's mostly related to weight cut. I mean, yeah, of course. That's part of it too. But again, you could prevent deaths if the Japanese Boxing Commission isn't taking 40 minutes to call an ambulance. They don't have ambulances on standby for non-world title fights in Japan. That's a fact. Thurman is going to be ready. He fought this year earlier. He won't have ring rust. This will be Fundora's 3rd fight this year. PBC is not inactive, like people say. Yeah. Weight cutting plays a huge factor on deaths as well, since Japanese fighters are likely to be in a lower weight class. Exactly. I agree. Inoue didn't look as strong when he fought outside of Japan. Against Carlos, I mean, he still stopped him. I mean, listen, I don't put nothing past no fighter. I think any fighter, any fighter could be on PEDs. Anyone. Inoue, anyone. Inoue, Angelo, Kenshiro, Jaron Ennis, anyone could be on steroids. I never put it past no fighter, even the ones I like. And no, I never put it past nobody to be on steroids, because that's the climate of boxing we're in. That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you have a fight, right, and you don't have no medical professionals on standby? Makes no sense. It's not adding up. Math ain't mathing. Like, a lot of Japanese fighters lack head movement. I would say like 95% of them do. And a lot of them, I don't know if it's because now. At first, I thought that that the reason why Japanese fighters lack head movement was because the coaches don't teach defense. But then as I've gone to enough gyms, my new opinion is that the reason why a lot of Japanese fighters have defensive problems is because they don't know how to teach defense. I really believe that, because Japanese boxing is very like aggressive, and I haven't really seen too much. I've been in about 17 boxing gyms, from Tokyo to Kyoto to Nagoya to Osaka to Okayama, all over Japan, and I haven't really seen a whole lot of defensive drills or defensive work. And that's the truth. The Bushido code, that shit is real. Like, all that shit you hear about in the movies, all of it is real. None of it is fake. There's a reason why it's a stereotype, because it's real. Adamas is a PBC. Don't be surprised when we find out at the WBC convention and Fundora becomes mandatory. Ooh, my guy, Hyro. I can see that happening. That's very, very possible. And be smart. Become a two-division champion to beat Adamas. And you know what? That'd be a really good fight, actually. People forget, man. Inoue knocked out Jason Maloney out in the U.S., and he also knocked out another American guy in L.A. while at super flyweight. Yeah, I mean, Maloney was a pretty devastating knockout. Didn't he knock out Michael Dasmarinas? Was in America too. That was in Vegas. That was at the Virgin Hotel. So we'll see. Only time will tell. We'll see if he gets to these next two fights against Merjan and Junto unscathed. I highly doubt. I think he's losing one of these next two fights. I don't know which one it's going to be, but I think he's losing one of these next two fights. And the only way he doesn't lose these next two fights is if he tweaks his style a little bit. He needs to go ahead and focus on his boxing a bit more. Hannah Street Vault says, BT, I have a crazy theory. I feel like Fundora will purposely lose to Spence to focus on college. What are your thoughts? Ooh, that's out there. But you know what? If Fundora loses a fight that he's not supposed to lose, he has the best built-in excuse I probably ever heard from a fighter. He can say, I couldn't focus on camp because I was focused on my studies to become an engineer at Harvard. That'll be a first. Has any fighter ever used that as an excuse before? Junto and MJ aren't beating Inoue. I hope you're right. I really, really hope you're right, because I want to be the one, not me, but I want my friend to be the one that does him bad at featherweight. So I'm hoping. I want Angelo to fight Inoue and beat him, but I don't know. I got my doubts. I got my doubts about him getting through Merjan and Junto unscathed. And one of the reasons why I have a big concern, it actually has nothing to do with Merjan or Junto. The reason why I have a big concern is that, bro, he's sparring like all the top fighters in Japan. He's sparring like Kenji Fujita, Subaru Murata. He's sparring Marlon Tapales, Riku Masuda. Like his training camp is ridiculous, and so I'm not ruling out the possibility that he might go into this MJ fight overtrained, because the kind of work they're bringing in from is like top level work. And I know how these Japanese fighters spar. When they spar, they don't spar to spar. They spar to fight. Like it's a fight. A sparring session is a fight. So I just feel like I'm very intrigued to see, like, what his condition is going to be going into the fight, because I'm not ruling out that he overtrains for that fight. And Merjan ain't the guy you want to overtrain against, because Merjan really is punching like that out of that southpaw stance. Shout out to my boy Taihei Yamamoto. Make sure y'all show your appreciation to my translator Taihei. If you guys watch the Japan interviews, you'll know Taihei. Yeah, the 3 logos, man. I gotta charge them. But look, they light up. You got Family Mart, you got 7-Eleven, and then you got Lawson. But I gotta charge Family Mart and I gotta charge Lawson, because they all light up when I touch them. So yeah, the 3 logos. Hope you're well, Taihei. Inoue versus Nakatani will be one of the best fights of all time. We got to get there. We got to get there first. And, crazier things happen in boxing. So I'm hoping we do get there, because more likely than not, the next time I go to Japan is gonna be for that fight. I'm thinking if Inoue fights Nakatani in May, which they're gonna fight in May because they've already got the date for the Tokyo Dome for May. I'm thinking I go to Japan somewhere around like March, middle of March, late March, somewhere like that, and we stay there and we get that content for you guys to build up towards the fight. You know, I'm sure my buddies from Tekken Promotions will be happy to see me when I go there, and I look forward to seeing them. But yeah, I'll probably be back in Japan in March, and I'll stay from March beyond that fight. So I'm invested. Listen, I'm invested in Inoue and Nakatani winning their fight, because I want to be there when they fight in Japan. Nah, send it to me. Afro Jam says, Mirko Cuello, what's next? Well, he just won the interim title. Right now he's gonna have to play the waiting game and see if he can go ahead and become the mandatory and get this fight with Nick Ball. You know, that's what's next. He's playing the waiting game that a lot of fighters got to play when they become the mandatory challenger. But he's not even mandatory yet. He's the interim, hoping to become the mandatory. So it's a little different. yeah. You know, this whole, so I don't know if I ever gave you guys a breakdown of my little my new YouTube set here. It's pretty Japanese over here. It's like you got his Kenshiro thing right here. And then, like, this is a screenshot from Hajime no Ippo. It's like a picture of them in training camp. And then you got the Inoue, Romo Gonzalez, Ioka, Japanese boxing magazine. And then, you know, you got an American flag. And then Angelo Leo to balance it all out. So that's the YouTube set. One day I'm going to do a video. I'm gonna give you guys a tour of my room and break it all down for you guys. But, yeah. Joel says, Espinosa said in one of your interviews, BT, that he feels Inoue would be more interested in 126 if one of the guys in 126 collect more than one belt. I agree with that, but I don't think that, like, okay, so I can speak to what I know, all right? Things I know about the champions at featherweight right now. I know Nick Ball hasn't fought a featherweight since he became the featherweight champion. Everyone he's fought, including Sam Goodman this weekend, are fighters that he dragged up from 122 to featherweight, right? So I think that's purpose. That's done by design, because they're trying to get him to keep that belt so that he can fight Inoue. So I don't think he's gonna fight. I think Nick Ball is flat out and witness protection. He don't want to fight nobody. Espinosa, I think, would fight anybody, because I've been around Espinosa. I don't think Espinosa is a diva, but I think Zanfer Promotions have a lot of money invested in him, and he's starting to gain a lot of fanfare here in the States. And Zanfer Promotions has a long track record of milking fights for their fighters. So I feel like him and Angelo Leo should be the fight at featherweight. But, you know, I think they're gonna try to get Espinosa one more fight before he looks for unification. Maybe against Shushu, maybe against a straight can. But either way, I think it'll be at least one more fight. And then for Angelo's a free agent right now. He got to sign a promoter. We'll see what happens with him. You know, Angelo, I think, would fight these guys. I know Angelo would fight these guys, because if you look at his box rec, he's fought all over America. Go. If you think I'm lying, go look at Angelo's box rec, and I want you guys to name all the different places he's fought. And it's crazy. He's fought in New Mexico, Colorado, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Japan, Mexico. He's fought in a whole lot of places. So I know he would he would fight. But right now, there's not really any unification fights on the table right now for him, from what I know. So we shall see what happens. Ball is the most, and shout out to Julius, Ball is the most protected fighter in boxing. All his defenses were against late 30s washed up fighters. This is very correct. And I think even though they're trying to cherry pick Sam Goodman, this could very well be a cherry pick gone wrong, guys. If Sam Goodman can hold his ground and not allow Ball to push him back, I really feel like Sam Goodman goes ahead and, you know, might outbox him. But we'll see. He can fight in the pocket, like Afro Jam said. He got reflexes. I think he can do his thing. What's that mean, though? Do you think Goodman has better skills than Tank? I don't think he's got better skills than Tank, but he's good. He's good. Shout out to Hyro. He says, what did I tell you about Ball? He's fighting the same guys he would fight if he didn't have a belt. To be fair to Hyro, he did say this. He did warn me, and he says Ball is being moved like Tank. And you know what's crazy, guys, and it's dawned on me in the build up to this fight that Nick Ball is not only is he being protected because they want the Inoue fight and they're probably going to get it, but Nick Ball is being protected because he's the only British world champion. Guys, if Nick Ball loses this weekend to Sam Goodman, this is going to be the first time in like 40 years that boxing hasn't had at least one British champion, because they've had at least one British world champion continuously for like the last 30 to 40 years. Something like that. I saw a stat on it. It's just a rumor. It's a rumor. If the fight can get done, I would like the fight to go ahead and happen. But if I'll tell you this: if it did happen, that'd be a fight that I would love to go to, because it's a big fight. It'd be a great event. But I'll believe it when I see it. Have you heard of Giorgio Bisoli, a UK prospect? Yeah, that's the dude. That's the dude that is making his whole name off of Carmel Moen. Apparently, he sparred Carmel Moen, and he went around saying that he beat the brakes off of Carmel Moen in sparring. And Eddie Hearn's he's running around an interview trying to hype him up. Yeah, I heard of him. I'm not gonna lie to you and say I watched him fight, but I know who he is. Yeah, the UK is taking a lot of L's, man. It's not 2017 anymore when the UK had a bunch of world champions. They've been getting their ass whooped and waxed left, right, and center over and over again. So, every boxing country goes through its cycles. BT, why do you think Bach wanted to fight Kelly so bad instead of Lubin? Because it's an easier fight. That's why. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Who do you guys think is a bigger name, Kelly or Lubin? They got different fan bases. I feel like Lubin, us Americans know Lubin, but Kelly might be bigger than Lubin, because Kelly was a big prospect. I remember there was a time when I thought highly of Josh Kelly, like years ago. He had a lot of hype behind him. In fact, I remember a Champion, the sneaker brand Champion. They signed Josh Kelly to an endorsement deal at one point. Like he was really like gonna be one of the bases of British boxing until he lost to Avanesian. So I don't know. Making your name off of Carmel is not a good look. Wait, it's what fighters do. They go in the gym, they spar, they have a couple good moments, they go on the media, they blow it out of proportion. Every fighter does that. A lot of fighters do. I won't say every fighter, but a lot of fighters do that. Honestly, Bulls will probably get destroyed by Murtazaliev. I think Lubin's got a chance if he's durable enough. Yeah, nobody's rated Kelly since he got his ass waxed by David Avanesian. That stopped a while ago. BT, who are your top 5 boxers of all time? My top 5 favorite, or the fighter, or the top 5 that I think are the best. I hate doing like top 5 who I think the best are, because there's so many great fighters and it's hard. And there's so many fighters that I know are great fighters that probably could get consideration, but I haven't studied their careers enough to have a real opinion. Because that's how much history there is in the sport, guys. Is that like you could spend your whole life learning about boxing, and you could still never learn about all these fighters. There's so many of them. Kelly is not popular here. His style is unappealing because at a higher level, he can't take the piss. Yeah, that's now. That's now. Back in 2019, 2018, I remember Kelly was getting a lot of buzz in the UK, in British media, and all those things. And it was just a much different story at that time, So, man, shout out again, my boy again with another super chat. Shout out to my boy Felipe. This live has been brought to you in part by Felipe. Make sure y'all go to Hark Recon in the Dallas Fort Worth area for all your detailed needs. Shout out to my boy. Hope you're good, Felipe. Hope all is going well in your life today. He says, back to back, keep up the grind. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm gonna keep it up. I'm definitely gonna keep it up. It's going to be live. It's going to be seen. Tomorrow, not sure what I'm going to do for tomorrow's live yet. Maybe I'll get Pops to come on here and talk some shit tomorrow. Maybe we'll get maybe we'll reach out to Rick Glazer and see what he's up to. I haven't had him on here in a while, so we'll see. But either way, I'm going live again tomorrow on the same time. So yeah, definitely trying to run it up, trying to run the numbers up so I could get closer to that 100,000 subscriber mark, man. I really want to get to 100,000. It's like it's on my mind. But thank you. BT Don King stopped trolling the WBA. He made Pulev vs. Hunter official October 4th. So they're gonna really fight in Miami. That's a Don King fight. That's crazy. That's crazy work. Don King still doing fights. Don King is back. I can't believe it. That's crazy. Don King is really still out here making fights happen. Murtazaliev don't want to fight a lot of people himself. That is true. That is very true, Afro Jam. You make a great point. Before Conwell lost to Jorge Garcia Perez, Bakhram was being a diva. He was saying he didn't want to fight Conwell. He doesn't like. He was doing all this, bullshit with Conwell, and he was being a diva. I agree with that. As much as there are guys that don't want to fight Bakhram, he's expressed himself. It's not even me saying this or hating or anything like that. He's saying he said it himself on Twitter. I don't want to fight Conwell. What's the point of that fight? Now, obviously, Conwell didn't do his job. He lost to Jorge Garcia Perez. So, now Bakhram is right. What is the point? You got to rebuild. But I remember that very, very clear. Dundada, what's up, champ? How you doing? Good to see you in the chat. There's a few fights on the zone tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, let's not be so pissy and complaining about boxing, because I feel like that's all I see in boxing, and sometimes I'm part of the problem. We're not getting the fights you want to see. This guy's ducking that guy, and sometimes we miss the fights that are right in front of our face. Let's talk about some of these fights that are happening this weekend, because this boxing doesn't stop for nobody. It waits for no man. It stops for no man. And just because these other channels don't know boxing and can't talk about these fights this weekend doesn't mean I'm one of them. So let's go ahead and let's talk about it. So we'll start with hold on, let me go to the rankings real quickly. So we'll start with We'll start with the featherweight. So tomorrow on UFC Fight Pass, you're gonna have Omar Trinidad taking on Lorenzo Parra. Now look, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't really know much about Lorenzo Parra, so I'm gonna go on his box rec. I know who Omar Trinidad is, because Omar Trinidad, he's like one of the top contenders in the IBF. In fact, it's very likely that in the next 12 months, if Omar Trinidad keeps winning, he becomes an Angel Leo opponent, because he'll become our IBF mandatory. So we'll have to fight Omar Trinidad at some point. But yeah, like Omar Trinidad, he's been a steady fighter. Tom Loeffler and 360 Promotions have been doing a good job matching him against guys he can beat. He did beat Hector Sosa. He did beat Mike Plania. And as far as Lorenzo Parra, who is Lorenzo? I've probably seen him fight. You see 23-1, Venezuela. Wow. Oh, I've seen this guy fight before. I watched this is the fight. I watched this fight here against Javon Woodward on Overtime Boxing. I watched this fight. Yeah, this is a close fight. And I remember this fight because this was like one of the first times that Overtime Boxing did the overtime round, because on Overtime Boxing, if you have a draw, they make you fight like a sudden death overtime round to determine the fight. And so I know this guy. This guy's not that good. If Omar Trinidad loses this guy, he don't deserve to fight for a world title. If he even like has a competitive fight with this guy, not to put him down, but I'm saying if you're Omar Trinidad and you're trying to fight, Angelo Leo for the world title, you got to be blowing these guys out. So I want to see him blow this dude out and continue to do his thing. But yeah, you got him tomorrow. And, I'm going to be watching that. Very, very interesting. I'm going to be watching that one real close tomorrow. And then you got Mizuki Hiruta, one of Japan's champions on the undercard. So that's tomorrow. And then you got Pro Box. Pro Box is the card. So Pro Box has. Let's go to Pro Box. And let's talk that real boxing talk. Hold on. So Pro Box has a card tomorrow, and I see some names. I see a couple names that I recognize on that Pro Box card. So one of the names I recognize is Shenard Bunch, but I won't even talk about Shenard Bunch. I'll talk about the main event. The main event is William Foster III. And I remember William Foster. William Foster, he lost to I saw him fight. Who did he lose to? The De Los Santos, and he lost to no, he lost to Henry LeBron. He actually beat De Los Santos early in his career. That's what he was. He lost to Henry LeBron a couple years ago, back in 2023, and now he's kind of building his record up and trying to get his career on track at 130. So he's in a fight against some guy, Muhammad Yakubov. Let me see what else we got. We got John Mendaro's fighting. You got this dude, guys. If y'all want to know who could be the next Filipino star, this might be a prime candidate right here. John Mendaro, 14-0, 14 knockouts, the Trigger Man. He's fighting tomorrow. He'll probably get a knockout. So you got him. Some good fights tomorrow. Shinar Bunch versus Starling Castillo. That's a good fight too. So Pro Box has some good fights tomorrow. So there's that, and then we know about the Saudi card. We don't need to get into that, and that's really it. It's a pretty slow week in boxing. It's a slow month in boxing, being honest with you guys. But yeah, I'll let you guys know in advance too. I'm not gonna go live during the card for Itama versus Dillian White, but I'm going to definitely go live immediately after the fight. So the same way I did it for the Kenneth Sims Duarte fight, I'm gonna do it the same way for this fight. As soon as the fight is done, I'm gonna hop right on live and give you guys my instant reaction, and we'll talk about it on Saturday. But yeah, it's not the worst week of boxing. It's just that this month is slow. BT, will you do a fan meetup when you watch a live fight in Japan? I'd love to do one. I feel like I don't like using that word fan meetup because I don't look at myself as no celebrity. I'm an extraordinarily talented guy talking about boxing on YouTube, but I'm a regular guy. But yeah, I would love to meet. I would love to gather up with all the viewers from Japan and watch some fights together. That'd be a lot of fun. That'd be a whole lot of fun. BT, put your life savings on White stopping Itama tomorrow. I seen a video of Itama getting knocked all around the ring and sparring. That's not gonna. I mean, we'll see. Listen, if that happens, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. It'd be a great story. But I don't think that's happening. I think sparring is sparring. I know I've seen some of the best fighters in the world get their fucking ass handed to them on a silver platter by nobodies in sparring. So I don't put too much stock into sparring. Sparring is sparring. Sparring is where you go. Sparring is where you go and you work on things and you make mistakes. So if a guy gets his ass handed to him in sparring, I don't put the most stock into it. Do I think Abraham Nova has any chance against Ford? I mean, we've all got a chance, but I would say no. I think this will probably be Nova's or Ford's. I don't want to disrespect Nova, but I think that Nova at this stage of his career is, Ford's gonna have a pretty easy time, I think. But I do like Nova. I'm a big fan of the mascot. So I'm rooting for Abraham Nova and the mascot to go in there and give him a good fight. And who knows? Maybe he turns his career around and beats him. It'd be crazy to see. But no, I think Ford should be fine. Other countries don't have an Ali Act. That is how Anderson versus McCauley was made behind Bob Arum's back. Correct, 1,000%. A lot of people are trying to do these mental gymnastics and be like, oh, well, BT, or let's say, oh, well, the Ali Act doesn't matter. Well, no, it does matter. If it didn't matter, why do you think Turkey and Dana White are trying to get U.S. legislation to bend the damn rule and amend the Ali Act? Things that don't matter, you don't change. Like nobody goes back and changes VHS cassette tapes because they're not relevant. They're not useful today. They just leave them where they were in the past. So if the Muhammad Ali Act was really as useless as everybody says it is, you wouldn't see Dana White and Turkey making a power play to get the U.S. government to amend the damn law. BT, Jan Santana or Basie Ramirez were kind of beefing on Instagram. What do you think about that? I didn't see that, but what did they say? That's a good. You know what? I like that fight. Yo, if Jan Santana wins that fight, that would be a crazy, because I feel like Jan has already had some really statement performances in his career already. you can make the argument that he's probably ready to fight for a world title right now. But if he beats Sebastian Fundora, there's no doubt about it. He's definitely ready to fight for a world title because Sebastian Fundora, at one point in time, to many people, was regarded as the best featherweight in the world. So I would love that fight. I think that's a fight that they should explore doing. Yeah, hell yeah. Why is nobody chasing the Yones Talese fight? Because Yones Talese is a good boxer. He might actually mess around and beat some of these guys, and nobody knows who Yones Talese is, and he doesn't bring the money to the table like that. So it's all risk reward, guys. Remember, this sport of boxing is a business, guys. So it's all. Nandada said, "BT, you guys said Boots was the next Roy Jones." I said that he had some Roy Jones in his style. There's only one Roy Jones, but yeah, nah. If you ever heard me say that, then shit, then exposed. Fuck me then. Listen, I don't want to sit here and talk about Boots. I talked about Boots all day yesterday. I made a whole 22-minute video about him the day before that, and I made another video about him negotiating the wrong Rambos. I've got Boots exhaustion. I don't want to talk about Boots anymore. Like, we'll have plenty. We got 2 months to talk about Boots. You know what's crazy though? You know who was the first person that told me that Boots was not like that? I mean, I'm not saying Boots might turn it around and might actually prove to be everything they say he is, right? And everything I once thought he was. But the first person that told me that Boots wasn't like that was Stacey McKinley. Remember, he did that interview last year, early last year too. He was like, "Yo, Boots is not like that. Like, what's so special about Boots?" And he said it in plain English. Yeah, I gotta watch that. I gotta do my homework on that fight because I know I think it was Hand History or somebody was telling me to do a video about that fight. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a video about that fight at some point. How do I see Norman versus Haney? Oh my god, I got a breakdown video coming out on that soon. It's 21 minutes long. So when it comes out, please watch it. But all I'll say is this is gonna be the last world title fight of Devin Haney's career, and I'll just leave it at that. Man, I think that I respect Devin Haney for stepping up to the plate, and if he wins this fight, he's gonna get unbelievable amounts of credit from me. But it's a terrible fight for Devin Haney. Adrian Broner announced that he's selling drugs. I seen that. Broner's just he goes through this about once a year where he gets depressed because he didn't get the most out of his boxing career that he feel he should have got, and he said he's coming back and he's gonna take things serious and all these kind of things. But we all know that, like, unfortunately, boxing is a young man's game, and you only get but so much time to do anything meaningful in it. And if you don't look after yourself, that compounds over time. That compounds over the years. Boxing is a jealous woman, and that woman is a woman scorned if you don't do the right things as far as looking after yourself. So my man said Norman is getting a lot. Yeah. It's a big possibility. I think it's a massive possibility that he's getting a lawsuit. If Barrow wins, it could trigger success. French boxing in the pros. They've been doing well. Well, I mean, Bruno Serraz, I feel like that's enough right there to trigger some French fighters to go in there and make a name for themselves. Listen, I love when I see countries that don't really have boxing infrastructure grow in the sport. I think it's good for the sport. Broner versus Maldonado, BT. Devin doesn't take fights he thinks he can lose, but yeah, that doesn't matter because Devin didn't think he could lose to Ryan Garcia, and I know it got taken out of his resume, but you saw what happened, and doesn't mean. Listen, just get to the fight. That's all. Just get to the fight. Just make it to November 22nd. That's all I'm gonna say. Norman KOing Sasaki, who has zero defense, is not preparation. He had more to worry about in the Sasaki fight than he does this fight. Devin Haney has nothing to keep Brian Norman off of him. I don't care how much boxing he can do. No amount of boxing is going to prevent him from having to go in there and fight. So if he doesn't, in his camp, if he doesn't find an answer of what he's going to do when he has to fight, he's going to be in some big trouble. And I think he is in big trouble. Fighting Jose Ramirez, fighting a shot to pieces, compromised Jose Ramirez. That's not preparation either. Imagine when I'm not I'm not even gonna talk about that. I'm tired. I'm tired of talking about both those guys. I'm good. I'm good on that one. Norman is gonna take 5 post Vada tests. Vada's gonna be in Brian Norman's hotel room day after the fight. Brian Norman goes out to take a piss, if he goes to ride on a camel in the middle of the desert, Vada gonna be there after the fight. You know, they gonna be there. Don't underestimate Haney's running ability. I'm not gonna call it running, and I'm not underestimating Devin Haney. Devin Haney is a world-class fighter, but I went back and I watched him. I went back and I watched the Ramirez fight real close. I watched the Linares fight real close. I've seen both of them in the gym. I've seen both of them hit the heavy bag. I know what both of them are punching like. It's a bad fight for Devin. You know, I'm sure. Like whatever is the best version of Devin Haney that can show up, I'm sure he's gonna show up and he's gonna box and move. But my thing is, Brian Norman can box and move too. That's the thing people don't realize. Brian Norman can actually box. But he boxes well enough to make Devin Haney have to fight. And when that happens, Devin Haney just better have an answer. If he doesn't have an answer, it's going to be a short fight. And I'll even say it like this, guys. Don't be surprised if I come here after that fight and I start telling you guys to put some respect on Jin Suzuki's name because Devin Haney didn't even get to the 5th round. Don't be surprised if that happens because that's a possibility. Now, do I think that'll happen? No. I think Devin Haney's too experienced, too smart. He will get past the 5th round and he will last longer than Suzuki. But if he's forced to fight earlier than he wants to, and Brian Norman brings up that PTSD from the Ryan Garcia fight, it's going to be curtains, and it's going to be curtains very early. What do I think Puello should do? It's a great question. I think Puello, I don't know, man, because I don't know if there's anything Puello really can do because Puello is not a guy that people are eager to fight. You know, he's not bringing a lot of money to the table. He's really good. He might mess around and lose your O or lose. You know, it's not good, man. I don't have an answer for that one, honestly. Because like again, he's high risk, low reward if I've ever seen it at 140. Maybe he could run that Sandor Martin rematch back because I thought Sandor Martin might have beat him, but that was a close fight. I'll tell you what, you know a fight I like for him. They can do maybe him versus Kenneth Sims Jr. I like that fight. You know, they're both coming off of a loss. They're both really good fighters. The crossroads fight, why not? Gary Anton Russell is ducking Andy Hiroka. Yeah, he don't want to fight him, bro. I saw his little interview he did. I don't think he wants to fight him. I saw an interview he did recently, and he didn't sound enthused about it. You know, like what I like Gary, but what is Gary even doing anyway? Like what is Gary Anton Russell doing? Like what's his next move? Is he gonna fight Subriel? Is he gonna fight Tio? Is he gonna fight Hitchens? Because if he fights one of them guys, if he fights Subriel, Matias, or Hitchens, or one of the champions, then I can't get mad at him. But bro, if you're not fighting none of them champions and you don't fight Andy Hiroka, okay, then I'm gonna have some things to say. Jermaine, yeah, that's a good fight. Ortiz versus Puello, I like that fight. I don't like Haney, but him something up at the normal scale says a lot about the guy. He wants smoke. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if Devin Haney can get folded in 3 rounds, I'm gonna get. He's already got my respect because we have to look at what's going on with Jaron Ennis. Jaron Ennis, I think Jaron Ennis is a more talented fighter than Devin Haney, but he don't have what Devin Haney's got. He don't have that willingness to take those tough fights like Devin Haney's got. So I gotta get Haney is stepping up to the plate and fighting Brian Norman Jr. Something Jaron Ennis refused to do. So I respect him. How is he ducking Andy? If Andy hasn't fought in a year, it's gonna be a year since Barroso because it's mandatory. I don't know. Has Gary announced anything? Nobody called out Ryle to fight Andy, but when it's the black guy, he can't get up. You're funny. You're funny, Hiro. Yeah, like he needs to get his shot, bro. I feel like he should get his shot. And if you leave it up to Gary, Gary's not gonna fight Andy. If you leave it up to Gary Anton Russell, he's not fighting Andy because Andy is not a big name like that. Yeah, they're not gonna do that fight. I don't really believe in that fight happening, but you know, it is what it is. Such as life, such as boxing. We can't always get what we want. In fact, if you were to remix that song and adjust it to boxing, it would be "We never really get what we want" because we don't. You know, we really don't. We'll get like fighters that we're excited about that aren't linked to each other to fight each other. Like Turkey does that a lot. We won't get Beterbiev versus Bivol, but we'll get Beterbiev versus Bivol on the same card, but not against each other. U.S. boxing is just a whole bunch of ducks. That's not. I mean, there's a lot of guys in America that are ducking, but that's not true. I think you got guys like Brian Norman Jr. and Angelo Leo. I think those are guys that are actually credits to American boxing. Those guys step to the plate. They take tough fights. They go to other countries and defend their belt. Those aren't ducks. Do I have any experience in the ring? Just sparring. Like I got sparring experience. I've sparred some pros. I sparred a couple of pros like in South Florida, but that's about it, champ. That's about it. You know, I ran some miles with Angelo Leo for the Venado camp. There's a video of me in the vlog doing his conditioning workouts with them, looking all fat and shit. But other than that, nah, man. I know how to fight a little bit, but I wouldn't say like as far as like being a high level amateur. Nah, I wasn't like none of that. Got into boxing too late. Growing up, I played baseball. Played a lot of baseball growing up. My whole life, pretty much, up until like high school, up until like the middle of high school, pretty much. Then I stopped. Played second base. Back in the day, like 20 years ago, they used to say, "BT, you could be the next Marlin second baseman." But in high school. I was a knucklehead. Like, you know, this calm, matured BT you guys see now. This wasn't always who I was. I've calmed down a lot over the years. I used to be a dumbass when I was a teenager. So I used to get like bad grades, and I couldn't get on the team because I couldn't stand the team because I had bad grades and stuff. But you know, you live and you learn. Is Fundora a South Florida fighter? Does he still have family in South Florida? See, you know what's funny about Sebastian Fundora? So he was born in West Palm Beach, and the irony of Sebastian Fundora is one of the first gyms he trained at when he was a kid is actually the same gym that I started boxing at when I picked up the boxing gloves for the first time, which is this gym in South Florida called Canino's Boxing Gym. You can Google it up. It's still in operation today. It's a small gym. It's in Dania Beach, Florida, where I grew up. He used to spar at this gym called Canino's Boxing Gym, and I've talked with Bonnie Canino, who runs the gym. She was a fighter back in the day, and yeah. So he moved to California when he was super young. So even though he does have some minor ties to South Florida, I don't necessarily consider him a South Florida fighter because he didn't grow up in the South Florida amateur system, and he as a fighter, you know, really he's a California fighter. You know, I don't consider even though it would be easy to. Lord Zed says, BT World Championship advisor. He told them to go to Japan early. I did say that. You know, I don't want to toot my own horn, but you brought it up. Yeah, I did tell Leo and them to go to Japan early, and I was there, and I did play a good role and help making sure that their lives were a little easier in Japan. So, you know, yeah, you could say that. You know, we're in the midst of working with another fighter right now, and maybe later on the line I'll share with you guys. But yeah. Hopefully, we get this other fight I'm working with a fight soon. You know, we're trying to get him a fight on the zone, and I'm like 70% of the way there. So when it happens, I'll let you guys know about it. But yeah, how did the homie Chibita lose the second fight? It's a great question. Now shout out to my boy Chibita Tsutsui, probably one of my favorite fighters from Japan, and really fun person to talk to. Chibita Tsutsui is fighting in a heavyweight tournament. The dude is not a heavyweight. He should not be. I don't know why he's fighting in a heavyweight tournament. The dude is like a 54, 60-pounder. He's fighting a heavyweight. Now, to his credit, in the first round of the tournament, he went ahead and knocked out a dude who was like 5 inches bigger than him and like 30 or 40 pounds heavier than him. Knocked him the fuck out, and it was great. Like that's what got my attention on him, because I didn't know who he was until I watched him fight. But I talked to him about it, and what he said was that basically the reason why he lost that fight is just because, just some things defensively he needs to clean up, and that he shouldn't be fighting a heavyweight. So hopefully, he drops down in weight a little bit. He's 5'9". He's not a heavyweight, but he's fun. He's fun. I don't think that he'll ever like win a world title or anything like that, or who knows? Maybe I have to see him fight at this actual weight. I don't have anything to go off of other than him just fighting at heavyweight. It's hard to really quantify what he is. Also, your boy with the beard lost on the Angelo undercard. Which boy with the beard? Well, the Angelo Kameda card. The heavyweight? Talking about the heavyweight from Japan? There was a heavyweight with the beard. That's who you're referring to. What was that guy's name? Herbert Matuvo, whatever his name is? Or no, Brandon Tajima, Mitsuru Tajima? Yeah, Mitsuru Tajima. Yeah, the heavyweight guy. Yeah. I wouldn't say he's my boy. I never talked about him. I didn't even know who he was until I saw him. So like, wouldn't call him my boy, but he's Japanese. Shout out to my boy Fix. What's good, champ? How do I rate Ryota Murata? Good fighter, gold medalist, definitely legend for Japanese boxing. Like obviously he's not a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but he was champion. He did his thing. He stepped into the plate, fought Golovkin, lost. So, a respectable fighter. Sandoval versus Goliath fight. Sandoval is ducking the rematch. Well, listen, they know for a fact. Like, bro, Ken Shiro's. If you ask me, if you said BT, what are Ken Shiro's best performances of his boxing career? Like 2 of the first 3 fights out of my mouth would be rematches. I think his rematch against Ibuki and his rematch against Guy-Gian Lopez. He beat the brakes off both those dudes, because he beat Guy-Gian Lopez in 2017 to win his first world title by majority decision. Came back the next fight, stopped him in 2 rounds. Then he fought Ibuki, who he lost to, got knocked out by, knocked him out in 3 rounds. So Ken Shiro doesn't just win rematches, he annihilates you in rematches. So they probably looked at past history and said, you know what? Let's not roll the dice here. Will Taraji fight Sandoval outside of Japan? That's a great question. I think he should. I know in the past that I know the first time I talked to Ken Shiro, the first time I ever met him, he was saying that he wants to fight in the States at some point, and he told me a while ago. He said, if I ever fight in the States, I want you to be there. So I feel like this is a time when it should happen. But the WBC has ordered Yafai to go ahead and fight Sandoval because he got screwed over by Chihuahua Rodriguez being on steroids. So I don't know, man. I feel like Ken Shiro. I really do feel like the powers that be are moving Ken Shiro out the way so that certain guys at 115 don't got to answer the bell, because he didn't lose. He didn't really lose to Sandoval. And I didn't want to say that it was a robbery, but I watched it back. That shit was a robbery. It was bad. It was really bad. Sandoval beat up a juiced up glove stacker in Japan. You think Ken Shiro is juiced up? He's not juiced up, bro. Come on. Let's not do that. And even if Ken Shiro is a glove stacker, I mean, he can wrap Sandoval can wrap his hands the same exact way. I've seen guys in Japan wrap their hands. You can wrap your hands the same way. What I do know about Sandoval, what I did learn in that fight, is that he's a good boxer, but he's not really punching like that. His power is actually a little overrated, and his knockout percentage is actually a byproduct of his matchmaking from Golden Boy. He's really not punching like that. Like he's not a pillow-fisted fighter, but he's not a world-class puncher. I believe there is a great possibility that Mario Barrios' next opponent will be Angel Fierro. Either way, I think he's moving up to 147. Well, whoever it is, they're going to avoid fighting the guys that, we know would annihilate Mario Barrios. Like, he's not going to fight Brian Norman Jr. He ain't going to do that. He'll fight someone that's nice and safe. And, yeah, like PBC, Bob Santos, they do a good job looking after him. Mario Barrios might have the best team in boxing. I mean, it's up there. Like, for him to have gotten this far, like, you talking about being on pay-per-view all these times, making all this money he's making. He got Omar Figueroa, like, man. He overachieved. Like, you can't say he didn't get everything out of his boxing career. He overachieved to the umpteenth power. Like, but yeah, it's your boy BT, the untouchable True School Sports Empire. It's True School After Dark. Make sure you guys smash that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and definitely super chat. We're here just talking shit, having fun, man, doing our thing. How good is Johnny Beck? Does he get a big fight with Adames? Johnny Beck is good. I'm not as high on Johnny Beck as I was before, because I feel like the way he's moved. Like one thing with me is I always look at fighters' management teams, because I'm someone that's always thought with boxing with like a management type of mind, and now I'm advising some fighters myself, so like I kind of gotta look at boxing like that even more now, bro. They don't want to go to 68 because they know he about to get annihilated up there. Because there's no big money fights at 160 for him, none. And Johnny Beck can't make the weight. But see, the problem with Johnny Beck is a tweener. Johnny Beck is too big for 160, and he's a little not undersized, but like he's not gonna have that size advantage at 68 that he's enjoyed at 60. So that's why they're reluctant to move up to 168. But he goes on Twitter every day, or whoever runs his account goes on Twitter every day, and they say they don't want to call him, they don't want to fight him. They're scared of him. They say he calls out Canelo. He keeps saying, yeah, Canelo, you don't want to fight me. They know I'm king. They don't want to fight. Like, come on, bro. Who would demolish Johnny Beck at 168? Right now? See, I'll name a guy for you who I think would beat the brakes off Johnny Beck. How about Alicius Iglesias? How about him? How about Christian and Billy? There's a lot of guys at 68 I think could have a chance to beat up Johnny Beck. To be honest with you, I don't really know how good Johnny Beck is, because it's not his fault. But like he's in the weakest weight class in boxing. He hasn't really he fought Vaughn Alexander early in his career, split decision loss, right? Split decision win. Denzel Bentley was supposed to be a cherry pick, but Denzel Bentley came to fight and punched him back in his mouth and gave him a really good fight. And then he's beat up on like guys that don't fight back. He fought Stephen Butler. He don't fight back. He fought Vincenzo Gutierrez, probably the worst champion of the last 5 years in any weight class, even worse than Barrios, the unified. Yeah, like. So Johnny Beck is too small, but Canelo is champion. Canelo is an A level fighter, an A+ fighter. Even though I'm not no big Canelo fan, I can acknowledge what he is. He's an A+ fighter, bro. Johnny Beck, he's big. He's a big fighter. But what I'm saying is, his management team is not confident in him. Like the way they act, they're not. They really aren't. There's from a management standpoint, there is zero reason at this point in time for him to be at 60. Zero. You're rolling the dice, because if he can't make the weight, he's going to wind up maybe losing a fight to somebody he'd never lose to if he was healthy. There's no big money fights, all right? And all the guys that you're maybe hoping from 154 to come to 160, they're not coming up for you. You're not a big enough name or an attraction. So I feel like the play for him is to go to 68 and do something over there, because there's guys like Johnny Beck in that weight class, these high risk, low reward guys that are looking for opponents, so he may want to be undisputed, but like, Ballara, if you want to be undisputed, okay, then you got to tell Agus Klimas and Top Rank to get on the same page and bankroll PBC a whole truckload of money, because they're not just going to give you the Ballara fight. You're going to have to come off some bread for that fight. You're gonna have to pay real money, overpaid, real money to get Lara on that ring. BT, I know Prime pissed with how PBC's been rolling out their shows. Barely any shows with the amount of money Amazon paid. None. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's been ridiculous. I know my boy Hyro, if he's in the chat, he'll probably tell you, well, PBC is about quality, not quantity. But at the same time, if you got a platform like Amazon Prime, you want to do a better job. I feel they should be doing a better job of having a more consistent schedule. I'm not saying you gotta have a fight every week, but shit, man, like just be a little more steady. Turkey said in an interview recently that Adames ducked Johnny Beck for the fight on the November card. Well, Turkey says a lot of things. Some things I believe, some things I don't believe. That's one of the things he said that I don't believe. I don't believe Adames ducked Johnny Beck. But who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe they're both ducking each other. Ma the Prince, good to see you. He says, tapping into Hayato and Mizuki's fights this week in BT. How competitive can you see Hayato being with the elite of 135? He said 3 to 5. I think he mean 130, like lightweight, because he's not at lightweight yet. Listen, man, for my money, I think above featherweight, Hayato Sutsumi is the best fighter above featherweight from Japan. I've been high on him since I first found out who he was. I think Hayato Sutsumi will not only be a champion at 130. I think have a great chance to really make some noise at 135 and compete with any of those guys. He has a high level of boxing. He's more defensively responsible than a lot of these other Japanese fighters. He's really good. Just gotta keep getting the experience. Do I consider Dimitri Salita a bad promoter in boxing? Well, I mean, he seems to have a bad track record with a lot of fighters. Is he a bad promoter? See, you gotta categorize the promoters, right? Like there's big time promoters, so you got your top ranked, you got your PBCs. Look, I feel like he's good at having dates and getting fighters, certain fighters busy. I don't think he does a great job of getting his fighters' names out there, but the fighters get dates, they fight on the zone, it's just that nobody knows that his shows ever happen. So, I'm not a big Salita guy, and I've seen and been around fighters who have said mean things about him. So now I don't have the best perception of him, but it is what it is. I don't think he's no great promoter, but he's doing his best, and that's all you can do in life is do your best. Resendiz is not very good. Plan is just washed. It's very possible. We'll see. We'll see as he continues to progress his career. If he's if Resendiz is not that good, if Resendiz goes out here and starts beating top guys, then that will show us otherwise. Hayato Sutsumi is one of the only fighters to get a B license. You can see his tests on YouTube. Great talent. Listen, man, Hayato Sutsumi to me, I don't want to sit here and call him like Bivol or anything like that because Bivol is such a great fighter, but like he's like the Dimitri Bivol of Japan. Like he's so great at distance control and he's got really good feet. He's got very good setups with his offense. Big fan of his. Big fan. Everyone's always saying like they always asking about Reito this and Reito that because Reito's been getting a big push from Turkey. But I'll bang the table and I'll die on the hill. I'll tell everyone like Hayato Sutsumi is in my opinion the better of the brothers. I'm higher on him than I am Reito. I think Reito is good, but Reito has to transition his style to the pro game a lot more than Hayato. Hayato came into the pros, I wouldn't say right away having that pro style, but I think by his third pro fight, he had that he found himself in the pros very quickly. It didn't take him a long time. Salita is always in court. Yeah, like the whole time I've ever seen Salita in boxing, he's always been in court, whether it's Jarrell Miller, a lot of fighters. What I'll say is this. Salita might be a bad promoter to some of you guys, or he may be a bad promoter in general, but he don't got nothing on Greg Cohen. Bro, Greg Cohen is like the worst. Didn't Greg Cohen get indicted and go to jail? Yeah, Greg Cohen is bad. I actually had a good friend who I won't say his name, but there was a guy that used to work in boxing years ago up in New York. And I know a lot about Greg Cohen. Crazy. Is Seiya Susumi the brother? No. Coincidentally, no. So you got Reito Susumi and Hayato Susumi who are related. They're not brothers. Oh no, they are brothers. Reito and Hayato are brothers, but Seiya is not. They're not related. There's no relation there. Susumi is a very common name in Japan. I might have been referring to Reito. I get them mixed up. Reito's the 120. I think he's a 126 or 122. Hayato's at 130. How many brawlers do you think we have in box today? It's definitely a lot less than previous eras. I can probably count on my hands how many. It's not a bad thing in my opinion. I mean, I watch a lot of Japanese boxing, so I feel like I'm always watching guys that are brawlers. But as far as like all like to me, I mean, when I think of brawlers in boxing, the main guy I think about is Ryan Ruzicki at cruiserweight. That dude is a brawler. But I think with the Floyd Mayweather influence in boxing, a lot of these young fighters can't watch Floyd, so a lot of these guys like to box. So that's what it is. Reito doesn't impress me much. Yeah, like Reito's good, but like I'm higher. Like Reito for me is not even like top 3 Japanese prospects. It's not like he's good. He's in the top 5, but I wouldn't say he's like top 3. There's guys that I class higher than him from Japan. Michael Angeletti. I saw him fight one time. He's a good fighter. His ceiling, or how do I rate him? I mean, he's a good fighter. I watched him fight one time on Pro Box, but I can't. Some of these guys, man, I watched them fight and I know their names, and that's what I'm saying. These fighters, they got to make an impression, because if not, I'll know the names and I'll just forget. But from what I remember about Michael Angeletti, he's good. Higher ceiling between Yo-Yo Hernandez and Aaron McKenna. I would lean slightly towards Yo-Yo Hernandez, but for me, the jury's still out on him, So there's that. Let me see what else. So, guys, look. Well, it's almost like 1:00 here on the East Coast. We're like 2.5 hours in. Listen, guys, it's been a pleasure. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the live. Listen. We'll be live again tomorrow. I'm not sure what the hell I'm gonna go live about tomorrow. Maybe we'll have Pops on here. Maybe I'll hit up Rick Laser. I don't know yet. But I'll be live tomorrow again around the same time, so you guys can come tune in and shoot the shit and talk boxing if you want to, and it'll be a great time. And until then, like, just continue to watch all the. Hold on, let me answer this question. Am I familiar with Salim Bey, Marcus Luther, or Jamal Harvey? Yes, I'm familiar with all those guys. Salim Bey, if I'm not mistaken, he's from Philly. And he's like really high level amateur. Marcus Luther, I saw him fight Carmel Moulton live in Cleveland in 2022 in the amateurs. Really good fighter. Definitely someone to watch out for. And then Jamal Harvey, man, I've been knowing Jamal Harvey since 2000. Me and Sean Zattel went to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs in 2022. We interviewed the whole U.S. amateur team for Sean Porter's Amateur Boxing Champions project that never got started, So, and then we never got the content, so I never got uploaded on my channel or his channel. But yeah, we interviewed like him, Joshua Edwards, Merle McCain, Raheem Gonzalez, Roscoe Hill. What's that girl's name? The white girl. What's that girl's name? I can't remember her name right now. Jairo Gonzalez. Yeah, a bunch of people that are now pros too. But I remember in 2022 when we were there, me and Sean couldn't stop. We were like, yeah, all these other fighters are pretty good, but this kid Jamal Harvey, he's gonna be a world champion, and I hold true to that. I think Jamal Harvey's gonna be a world champion, and I can't emphasize enough how pivotal it was that MVP Promotions got him to sign, because I think that kid is going places. And yeah, he's making his pro debut on August 22nd. So yeah, man, your boy BT, he's been on the block. I've seen a lot of these fighters years before they get signed or anything like that. So this is we try to stay ahead of the curve here on True School Sports and give you guys great content. It's a daily grind. It never stops. And yeah, my 10-year anniversary, the completion of my 10th year in boxing will be September 5th. So I'm really excited about that, because I've never stuck with. I don't feel like I've given anything in my life as much dedication and time as I have covering boxing. So it's just been great to see things out for 10 years. But listen, guys, I'm rambling. It's been a pleasure. I gave you guys 2.5 hours today, so we'll come back tomorrow and give you guys another stream. Keep watching the content, keep supporting the channel, and like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me. But I'm just a kid from Dang It. So until next time, take care, guys.